Chapter 829. This explosion of the heavenly Tao caught everyone off guard. All the cultivators in every corner of the planet, even those at the foundation establishment stage, felt a resonating power at this moment. It was as if a divine aura that originated from beyond the heavens was reaching out and gently caressing their heads. This feeling was incomparably wonderful, and there was actually a kind of numbing pain and pleasure. This feeling was felt by almost all cultivators. The only difference was that those with lower realms, such as the Foundation Establishment and Golden Core cultivators, although they felt this way, they did not know what was happening. The wind and clouds had changed, some people had broken through to the true immortal realm, but they did not directly become a celestial paragon. Instead, they were approaching the realm of a celestial paragon. According to ancient texts, this realm was also known as half-step paragon or true paragon. It was a realm that was stronger than a true immortal but weaker than a celestial paragon. The formation of true venerables was very rare. The records in the ancient books were very limited, even fewer than the records of immortal venerables. Due to the thinning of the spiritual energy on Earth, all the countries had signed the Perfected Immortal Convention, which required all the countries to jointly seal their realms and prevent perfected immortals from becoming immortal venerables. This was because advancing to the immortal venerable realm would consume a huge amount of the Earth's spiritual energy. Once the Earth's spiritual energy was exhausted, the era of cultivators might be gone forever. Given the accumulation of the 10 generals, including the head of state, they were all qualified to ascend to the immortal venerable realm. However, due to the restrictions of the convention, the upper limit of their cultivation realm was sealed. In recent years, the key joint research project of various countries was to find a way to break through from perfected immortal to venerable immortal without weakening the basic spiritual power of Earth. However, to everyone's surprise, someone actually managed to break through to the true immortal realm on this day. Although he hadn't reached the level of a celestial venerate, he was still stronger than a true immortal. Most importantly, the true venerated realm was a guarantee for future advancement. Because after reaching the true sovereign realm, the difficulty of advancing to the celestial sovereign realm would be greatly reduced, and the success rate would be 80 to 90%. Many void refinement realm, rogue immortal realm and even true immortal realm experts immediately understood what was happening at this moment and the great significance that it would bring in the future. This person was probably the first person in the modern history of the world to break through the true immortal realm and reach the 9th stage true venerable realm. But who is this person? For a moment, many cultivators raised their questions. This kind of advancement did not even have any signs, it was too strange. On the other side, President Bai, who had successfully replaced Night Ghost Spirit Emperor as the new leader of Night Chief, had an ugly expression on his face. Someone had become a true sovereign. This was definitely bad news for Night Chief. Most importantly, Wang Dao Master's whereabouts were currently unknown. No one knew where he had run off to. Previously, he said that he was going to teach the thief a lesson, but in the end, there was no trace of Dao Master Wang. As for Ultimate King of Killers, President Bai had just received intelligence that Ultimate King of Killers' operation had failed, and had suffered a crushing defeat. For some reason, President Bai felt a little uneasy, but he couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. Who was it that became a grade 9 true venerable? For a time, it became a big question on a global scale. But this riddle was completely seen by the heads of the major sects, General Yi and Marshal Jiang, as they ate at the banquet. Right after he took a bite of the Heavenly Tao broccoli salad, there was the sound of a Heavenly Tao explosion. Then, under everyone's stupefied gazes, grenade-throwing senior immortal, he turned into light. For a moment, all the guests covered their eyes. This was the light of Heavenly Tao, which was far more intense than the light of the solar fist. General Yi and Marshal Jiang couldn't see through this light to clearly see grenade-throwing senior immortal's current appearance. Even sect leader Su Xing, who had inadvertently awakened Heavenly Tao, couldn't clearly see what was happening. The number of Heavenly Tao he had awakened was limited, and he couldn't see through the phenomenon to its essence. Marshal Jiang covered his eyes. He felt like he was going to be blinded. Oldie, this can't be, it can't be wrong. General E said. The two of us have a deep understanding of Senior Immortal's strength, but we never thought that he would actually comprehend Heavenly Tao and become a true Venerable just by relying on a broccoli. Grade 9 True Venerable, reached Senior Immortal just like that. Marshal Jiang was utterly shaken. But could it be? I know what you're worried about. General E knew that Marshal Jiang was worried about the True Immortal Convention. The convention did indeed say that all true immortals couldn't advance to venerated immortal by consuming Earth's inherent spirit energy, but it didn't say that they couldn't advance to true venerated immortal. Putting aside the fact that this was between the two realms, there wasn't any violation at all. The most important thing was that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal hadn't extracted any of Earth's spirit energy when he advanced to true venerated immortal. If he had really extracted Earth's spirit energy to advance, there would definitely have been a huge torrent of spirit energy here, and even a destructive spatial vortex. Thus, to advance to the venerated immortal realm, one usually had to find an uninhabited place to do it alone. It seemed that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had really relied on a broccoli to advance, although a lot of people didn't want to believe this. Thus, when the light dimmed, a bewildered grenade-throwing Senior Immortal noticed the true immortal mark on the back of his hands, and he looked around at the bewildered guests with a bewildered expression on his face. It's a true venerated mark. On the back of Senior Immortal's hands and forehead. Both, someone then cried out in alarm. It wasn't until that moment that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal cried out in his heart, he had actually broken through. For a moment, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's heart was filled with emotion, and there were even tears in the corners of his eyes. Sure enough, old Senior Wang didn't deceive him. He was just a small soul formation cultivator, but he could actually leap through the red gate like a carp, surpassing true immortal and reaching the true venerated realm in an instant. Come to think of it, in recent history, it seemed that no one had ever reached the true venerated realm, right? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal wiped his tears. He was touched from the bottom of his soul. Ever since he started cultivating, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had in fact come to realize that his talent wasn't as good as the rumors said. It had taken him almost 2,000 years to reach the soul formation stage. It might seem very fast, but only grenade-throwing Senior Immortal himself knew how much effort he had put into it. There had even been a time when grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought that it would be hopeless for him to break through from the soul formation stage. Until he met his most beloved brother Ling. And that bunch of old seniors of the Wang family. From the moment he had visited the Wang family's small villa, when Grandfather Wang had scooped him a bowl of tomato egg soup and picked up a broccoli with his chopsticks, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's mood had already changed. He felt that he should be more magnanimous. He should have the courage to face life. What did tomato egg soup mean? Old Senior Wang was telling him that an ordinary egg light, was the real deal. And what did broccoli mean? Old Senior Wang was telling him that he needed to have the same spirit of overcoming difficulties as when he went on a pilgrimage to the Western Paradise to pluck beautiful flowers. At that moment, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal finally understood the meaning behind these two dishes. Heavenly Tao broccoli was really too magical. Senior Immortal, a lot of people were startled when they saw grenade-throwing Senior Immortal wipe his tears. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal restrained his emotions a little, picked up another piece of broccoli with his chopsticks, and put it in his mouth. I never thought that after eating this Heavenly Tao broccoli every day, I would finally break through today. Everyone, don't make a fuss, eat quickly. The guests who hadn't had much of an appetite at first started to gorge themselves on their plates. There were even a few sect leaders who didn't even need their chopsticks, they directly started to eat with their hands. After this day. Chapter 830. It was August 9th on Wednesday in the 15th week of the semester. It was the day after the Office of Strategic Deception announced its founding and smoothly held its sect celebration ceremony. News of Ultimate King of Killers' immediate execution had shaken the whole of Washoe Nation. Not long after the Ultimate Killer King was brought back, the Killer King's memories were completely analyzed. Given the Killer King's personality, if it was just an interrogation, the Killer King wouldn't say anything even if he died. Forcibly analyzing a memory was something that could only be done on the most vicious criminals on death row. As long as they hadn't been sentenced to death, forcibly analyzing a memory was a violation of personal rights. In the end, the analysis of Ultimate King of Killers' memories had gone so smoothly because Wang Ling had sealed off this King of Killers' power at the very end, leaving him powerless to struggle. As an old rival, General Yi knew this Ultimate King of Killers too well. This was Wolf Fire. If his strength hadn't been sealed off, he might have destroyed his own brain without hesitation. Huaxiao Alliance Building, the 10 Generals Conference Room. In any case, it's all thanks to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's help this time. General Yi sighed. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's combat strength had already been fully demonstrated in front of Marshal Jiang and General Yi this time. As for why it was only a preliminary demonstration, that was because the gap in their battle strength was so obvious that it didn't feel like grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had used his full strength at all. The most important thing was grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's control of his strength. It was terrifyingly precise, and he could control and release it freely. This wasn't something an ordinary person could do. I never thought that our deduction this time would be completely correct. This grenade-throwing Senior Immortal is the strongest. We actually set our sights on that Ling Jinren and Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch before. It looks like this was just a smokescreen Senior Immortal left behind for the world. Marshal Jiang also sighed. This time, Senior Immortal chose to directly advance to True Venerated in front of everyone during the founding ceremony, which is already a clear indication of his attitude to the world. He's a man who wants to do great things, and will definitely bring the Office of Strategic Deception to greater heights. So, in the end, it's still the chief who has a unique vision. President Qi nodded. If it wasn't for the head of state's order to give Huaxiao Alliance half of the shares in the Office of Strategic Deception's investment plan this time, when the Office of Strategic Deception developed in the future, it would be hard to imagine the outcome. Saying this, President Qi was silent and didn't go on in detail. In reality, the 10 generals' hearts were as clear as a mirror. It could only be said that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal wasn't just an expert, he was also a meticulous person. If he wanted to develop the Office of Strategic Deception into the #1 sky-level sect, it was impossible for him to break away from Huaxiao Alliance's shackles. Thus, by accepting Huaxiao Alliance's investment, he was in fact taking the initiative to cooperate with them. Huaxiao Alliance now played an important role in the Office of Strategic Deception's future development plans. This also put an end to the rumors that the Office of Strategic Deception would become China. Moreover, if it wasn't for grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's great help in stopping Ultimate King of Killers, the 10 generals' reputation might have suffered a setback. Since we're all family now, we have to first think of a way to explain Senior Immortal's promotion to True Venerated internationally, President Qi said. This was the main purpose of the gathering of the 10 generals. Because of grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's advancement to True Venerated level, there were already a lot of people in the outside world who denounced him, especially abroad. But the fact was that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's advancement didn't violate the True Immortal Convention at all. Then what's Senior Immortal's stance on this? Asked Explosion Saint, who ranked first among the 10 saints in terms of combat strength. Senior Immortal hasn't given an answer yet. President Qi shook his head. Perhaps this is a test. Explosion Saint raised an eyebrow. Given Senior Immortal's forbearing personality, he was so low-key before that even we almost misjudged him, but he chose to advance on the day of the sect's founding ceremony. I personally think that a large part of the reason is because of us. If Senior Immortal hadn't stepped in to protect Blade Master and Battle Saint, I think he would have continued to hide. Explosion Saint sighed deeply. I still feel that we owe Senior Immortal a big favor. So while Senior Immortal hasn't made his stance clear on this matter, we still have to handle it carefully. President Qi said, in the future, we may need Senior Immortal's help, so this matter has to be handled properly. Of course, there's another possibility that Senior Immortal isn't replying, and that is because we escorted too many people away yesterday, which made Senior Immortal feel that we didn't give him face, so he's angry. Angry? No way. I'll ask him. General E sent Grenade throwing Senior Immortal a text message. Senior Immortal, are you angry? After the dinner party last night, Grenade throwing Senior Immortal had added General E and Marshal Jiang, the two representatives of the 10 generals, on WeChat. Everyone, when he received the text message, Grenade throwing Senior Immortal was vexed over what the international news was saying about him. He had been eating broccoli for so long, but in the end, who knew that he would advance so fiercely yesterday, angry. Grenade throwing Senior Immortal looked at General Yi's text message and was a little flattered as he replied, angry? I'm not. Grenade throwing Senior Immortal respected the 10 generals very much. After all, he was just a baby with a cultivation base of over 2,000 years, but the 10 generals had cultivated for thousands of years and far surpassed him. They were seniors who had gone through great storms. While the 10 generals were thinking of ways to deal with Grenade throwing Senior Immortal, the latter was also vexed over the sect and the international news. On the other side, there was another person who was vexed, and that was Wang Jin, because Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch was about to face an important final exam. The matter of asking Wang Jin had been put on hold. Wang Jin's strength had been completely sealed, and he was living at Wei Ji's house, helping him raise the animals, and living a life of repeatedly kissing and stroking cats, but this wasn't enough to calm Wang Jin down just like that. Wang Jin thought that he had probably made a mistake regarding the matter of the thieves. And the most important thing was that Miss Lu still hadn't woken up. Thinking up to this point, Wang Jin felt a little conflicted. In fact, he hoped that Miss Lu would wake up, because if the Lu family knew that their precious daughter had secretly followed him into a Kuan's belly in order to look for him in the world below, and had even put him into a deep coma, they would definitely skin him alive. But Wang Jin also hoped that this Miss Lu would calm down a little after waking up. It was impossible for there to be love between the two of them. But why was this Miss Lu relentlessly chasing after him? In the world above, Wang Jin had heard that Miss Lu had a good impression of him, but he hadn't expected her to be this crazy. Wasn't he just handsome, strong and rich? Chapter 831. Wang Zhen had always been an extremely conceited person since he was a child. The Wang family had a prominent position on Ninefold Star, and was always in the top 3 on the ranking of aristocratic families, and basically stayed in second place. Even if they sometimes fell to third place, they would quickly return to second place. The number 1 aristocratic family on Ninefold Star was the Gu family, and eldest young Master Gu had always been Wang Zhen's sworn enemy. Wang Zhen had challenged eldest young Master Gu countless times, but had always ended in defeat. The Lu family was a little weaker than the Wang family, but was still 7th on the ranking. This time, the Wang family had chosen to join forces with the Lu family through marriage in order to counter the Gu family's continuous expansion as the number 1 hegemon on Ninefold Star. It wasn't that Wang Zhen didn't understand the elders' actions. After all, the Wang family had been the number 1 hegemon on Ninefold Star for a long time. It was just that in the past, the Wang family had fallen into a slump, and it was during that slump that the Gu family had risen to prominence. The Wang family's elders were dissatisfied with the long-term instability of the Wang family's position and the criticism of the outside world, so they naturally had to think of ways to reconsolidate their position. As the eldest son of the Wang family's younger generation, Wang Zhen naturally had to shoulder heavy responsibilities. And this way of entrusting him with heavy responsibilities was through marriage. This was currently the fastest way the Wang family elders could think of to increase their strength. Moreover, that Miss Lu of the Lu family, Lu Qingyi, was very beautiful, dignified and graceful. According to the Wang family elders' initial introduction to Wang Zhen, Miss Lu Qingyi's most outstanding feature was her legs, which were as white as ice cream, and which made people want to lick them. Still thinking about that Miss Lu. In the living room, Wei Ji saw Wang Zhen's listless and distressed expression. Wang Zhen stared emotionlessly at the LCD TV, which was playing a live broadcast of this year's S888 season and the League of Legends finals. Wang Zhen was bored. This year's Hua Nation IG team was too strong, they were thrashed in every way. Wang Zhen was still watching the first match, but he didn't need to pinch his fingers to know that it was definitely going to be 3 o'clock. Sigh, boring. It was the same as a marriage alliance. Boring. After living together for the past 2 days, Wei Ji probably knew more about Wang Zhen than anyone else in the know. When Wang Zhen had been sent here, Immortal Toya had already shared all the information he knew with Wei Ji. Wei Ji was now one of them, and Wang Zhen was left in the world below without a fixed place to stay. He needed Wei Ji's help, so he naturally had to let Wei Ji know who he was helping and why he was helping. Wei Ji was a good person, but not a goody two-shoes. In fact, Wei Ji sympathized with Wang Zhen's predicament. It was already the year 8102, to think that marriage alliances and forced partnerships still existed. He had to marry a girl he didn't like, and after that, he had to give birth to a child according to the rules of the marriage. Wang Zhen had described it to Wei Ji before. This was simply a disaster, get over it. Wei Ji patted Wang Zhen on the shoulder. Isn't it possible for you and Miss Lu to give it a try? Impossible, impossible. Wang Zhen shook his head. Do you know how happy the elders of the Lu family were when our Wang family and the Wang family joined forces by marriage? All of them curled up on the ground like mantis shrimps, laughing hysterically. Wei Ji, Wang Zhen sighed. What I can't accept the most is that they actually knocked Miss Lu out and moved her into my bedroom. Wei Ji was startled. You didn't do anything. Wang Zhen looked at Wei Ji and shook his head. Wang Zhen, might be a little cheap sometimes, but I wouldn't go so far as to do that to a girl. I'm a gentleman. You're lying. Wei Ji stared at Wang Zhen. Wang Zhen. It was the pushing large butterfly that told me. Wei Ji said, the pushing large butterfly's wings can sense subtle vibrations in the air. When a person lies, their breathing rhythm is different. So, towards that Miss Lu. I swear, I really didn't do anything. Wang Zhen surrendered and raised his hands. I just didn't have any feelings for her. Wei Ji understood. That is to say, if it was another girl you had feelings for, you would have done it, right? Wang Zhen felt like he had fallen into a trap. Furthermore, he actually couldn't refute it. But at that time, it was an indisputable fact that he didn't have any feelings for Lu Qingyi. Logically speaking, Wang Zhen felt that if he saw a girl he particularly liked, even if he wouldn't do anything particularly wretched or despicable, he would at the very least have some reaction. As a hot-blooded man, he actually didn't have any reaction when he saw a pretty girl who looked pretty good. Didn't that mean he didn't have feelings for her? But then again, Wang Zhen had in fact never been in a serious relationship. In his limited childhood memories, he only had memories of his body being stimulated by his real father and mother. It was better now that he was older. Wang Zhen remembered that his real parents had been extremely controlling of him when he was young. He didn't know what puppy love was before, and his real parents would get nervous just by looking at a pretty girl at school. To prevent him from puppy love, they had sent him to a puppy love rehabilitation center. Wang Zhen could still vividly remember what happened in treatment room 13 back then. Unfortunately, that puppy love rehabilitation center had been shut down after Wang Zhen had gone in. That was because the sweaty men inside couldn't hold him down at all when they used electric shock therapy on him. As for that puppy love therapist surnamed Yang, Wang Zhen had even directly smashed his dog head in by an enraged Wang Zhen, so from that day on, his real parents made a great decision. They decided that from now on, they would do everything themselves. They wouldn't entrust it to anyone else. While Wang Zhen was complaining to Wei Ji, there was a new development on Chrysanthemum Island. Jean Shi and Yin Shi had been staying by Miss Lu Qingyi's side to take care of her. In the last 2 days, Lu Qingyi had been making more and more small movements, from moving her fingers at the beginning to her eyelids trembling from time to time. It looks like she'll wake up soon. Immortal Toya opened Miss Lu's eyelids and checked the condition of her pupils. Shifu, what's the situation like now? Jean Shi asked in a childish voice. Miss Lu is pretty much better now, and has completely woken up from her severe coma. Maybe in 2 or 3 days. Maybe she'll wake up in the next second. As soon as Immortal Toya said this. Chapter 832. The girl who had just woken up was astonishingly calm, as if she already knew what had happened. She even knew her surroundings like the back of her hand. How long have I been unconscious? Miss Lu turned to ask Immortal Toya next to her. She touched her legs. Because she had been lying in bed for a long time, her legs were slightly numb. Although Jean Shi and Yin Shi had been massaging her muscles every year, there was still a kind of numbness. This was because Miss Lu's previous coma was more serious. It was a super coma that was close to a vegetative state, and it usually only happened to cultivators. In the process of unconsciousness, all the meridians in his body were blocked, and the spiritual power in his body could not circulate. His golden core could not rotate on its own, and even his nascent soul began to enter a dormant state. More importantly, this Miss Lu was originally from the divine realm, so her demand for spiritual power was relatively large. However, she fell into a coma after coming to the lower realm, and the spiritual power on earth was relatively thin. This worsened the symptoms of the coma. So during the treatment, in addition to Jean Shi and Yin Shi's combined massage, Immortal Toya also used golden needles to unblock Miss Lu's meridians and circulate spirit energy manually. The fact that Miss Lu could directly sit up like this now was the result of their efforts. If no one paid any attention to her after lying down for so long, Miss Lu would probably have to use her mind to move every muscle in her body. Just like the female lead in the movie Kill Bill. From the time we rescued Lady Lu until now, it's been more than a month. Immortal Toya did his best to keep a gentle smile on his face. He didn't want to startle Miss Lu, but it seemed that this Miss Lu was a little thick-skinned, and seemed a little too familiar with him. At this moment, she was massaging her slender legs with her arms, and the light coming from her hands was intermittent. Because she hadn't used spirit force for a long time, some of her meridians weren't completely connected. This was actually a normal phenomenon. It's pretty much what I expected. Thank you so much. Immortal Toya. Miss Lu said. How does Miss Lu know me? Actually, I regained consciousness a few hours ago. But I can't open my eyes at all. Just by listening to your 2 disciples chatter, I know where I am and what happened, Lady Lu said. Immortal Toya was blank. He woke up a few hours ago. He sweated a little. Thank goodness it wasn't a few days ago. Otherwise, if Wang Jin had been here at that time, wouldn't he have been pounced on by Miss Lu? I know. Miss Lu borrowed the Kun to come down to the world below for the sake of your relationship, right? Immortal Toya said. You even know about this? Miss Lu was shocked. Immortal Toya had never liked to poke his nose into other people's business. But after the last time Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had come to Chrysanthemum Island, because of the soul suppression ring, Immortal Toya had mistakenly thought that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had a partner, and a series of awkward incidents had occurred. Immortal Toya was surprised to realize that he seemed to have the potential to be a matchmaker. Feelings were something that had to be nurtured. Who would be born with feelings? Even for Senior Ling Jinren, it was only after eating crispy noodle snacks several times that he had developed such an obsession with them. In Immortal Toya's opinion, Wang Zhen and this Miss Lu were a perfect match for each other. We actually pretty much understand Miss Lu's situation. In our world below, we also need an almighty, called Senior Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. He can understand a lot of things. Immortal Toya waved his hand and had Jean Sher and Yin Sher leave first. He then pulled out a chair, sat down, and started to talk with Miss Lu. Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. Miss Lu carefully recalled this Daoist name. She wasn't a narrow-minded person, but she really didn't have much of an impression of this Daoist name. But this Dao Monarch actually knew about her feelings. It seemed that he was indeed a big shot through and through. Then what do you think about this relationship? Miss Lu didn't avoid the topic, and asked directly. A lot of times, feelings are mutual, and it's definitely not good to force it. Given Daoist Wang Zhen's looks, there should be a lot of people chasing after him, so I think he probably has seen countless women, so it might be very difficult to move him with ordinary methods. Miss Lu thought for a moment, then nodded. That's true. Go on. She had fought Wang Zhen before, and he was indeed coarse and thick-skinned. She couldn't move him at all. Furthermore, he was very good at dealing with her cultivation techniques and martial arts, and could easily break all kinds of her moves, making her feel very embarrassed every time. Presumably, this had a lot to do with the fact that he had seen countless women. However, Wang Zhen herself didn't know about her fight with Wang Zhen. She had disguised her identity once and deliberately challenged Wang Zhen to a fight. Until now, Wang Zhen still didn't know why a lunatic would suddenly lock him in from behind as he was leaving the house, so when it comes to Daoist Wang Zhen, I think Miss Lu should act according to his preferences. Some people are amenable to coercion but not coaxing, while others are amenable to coaxing but not coercion. You mean you want me to give him a present? But why should I give him a present? Miss Lu was a little dazed. Immortal Toya smiled. Love is mutual. Miss Lu, you have to understand an unchanging truth. It's easy for a woman to pursue a man. Chapter 833. Immortal Toya never expected the truth to turn out like this. Immortal Toya. So, the real reason Miss Lu chased after Daoist Wang Zhen back then was just to beat him up. As Miss Lu massaged her thigh, she revealed a matter-of-fact expression, of course. What else can I do? Immortal Toya, Miss Lu, does that guy Wang Zhen think I'm chasing him? He was too narcissistic. It's true that my Lu Qingyi family's ranking isn't as high as his Wang family's, but he should know that when my Lu family was at its peak, we could chase up to the top 3 on the list and almost overturn the Wang family, causing them to fall from their hegemonic position. His Wang family was indeed very amazing, and it was said that the first patriarch of the Wang family was the founder of Ninefold Star. Why couldn't the Wang family rule the hegemony now? And there was a big gap between them and the number 1 Gu family. The Wang family should know the reason best. It was all because the descendants of the Wang clan did not want to improve, relying on their hegemonic position to eat and wait for death, thinking that they could rule for a long time. In the end, after a certain period of time, when the Wang family's strength in all aspects plummeted and they fell into a slump, the Wang family began to pay attention to them. Immortal Toya. Actually, Immortal Toya didn't know much about the disputes between the aristocratic clans on Ninefold Star, but he was actually quite interested in what Miss Lu had to say. The most important thing was that Immortal Toya realized that he didn't have a chance to interrupt her at all. Miss Lu had been in a coma for too long, and it had been a long time since she had been able to release the gloominess in her heart. However, by the time the Wang family started to pay attention, it was already too late. The gap between the Gu clan and the Wang clan wasn't that big to begin with. During the period when the Wang clan was in a slump, the Gu clan overtook the Wang clan several times and finally became the hegemon, pulling the Wang clan down from their pedestal. Lu Qingyi chuckled, and there was an unruly look in her eyes. So, now that the Wang family and our Lu family are connected by marriage, the outside world is saying that when the Lu family found out about the marriage, we were as happy as a grandson seeing his grandfather, and wanted to suck up to the Wang family. But in this lady's eyes, we are the grandfathers, and the Wang family is the grandson. And this Wang Zhen is just a little brother. Immortal Toya. Lu Qingyi, so, my first goal in descending this time is to kill that traitor Chao. No, kill that traitor Wang. When Miss Lu said this, Immortal Toya noticed that her legs seemed to have almost recovered. She was now bending forward on the bed, her legs were exceptionally flexible, and she could pull her elbows up to her toes. Immortal Toya sighed and felt deeply sorry for Wang Zhen. What a good girl. And it wasn't a pair of A's either. Looks like it's something. Her skin was fair and clear. Curvaceous. Furthermore, even her flexibility was so outstanding. If they were together, they would definitely unlock many new positions. Miss Lu has just woken up, and it may take some time for her lower body to recover. I'll go get her a cup of invigorating blood tea, which will speed up her recovery, said Immortal Toya. Lu Qingyi didn't stand on ceremony. Thank you for taking care of me all these days. I will repay you well in the future. Immortal Toya laughed. Well said, actually, pouring tea was only secondary. It was just that Immortal Toya needed to inform the other side about Miss Lu's awakening in advance. In exchange for information on the domain of the gods, he had promised Wang Zhen that he would let him know if Lu Qingyi had any clues or news. And then there was one more thing, as the saying went, it was better to tear down 10 temples than to break up a marriage. Although the two of them didn't have any feelings for each other now, they were really a good match. Immortal Toya wanted to play matchmaker. Now that the two of them had come this far, they couldn't be roped in through normal means. Furthermore, Immortal Toya could tell that both of them were a little tsundere. What was the best way to deal with a tsundere? That was to play hard to get. However, whether this matter could succeed or not would ultimately depend on the two people's luck. When he left the treatment room, Immortal Toya looked up at the sky and sighed. He suddenly remembered that his job wasn't to be a matchmaker, but to be an alchemist. Who cares? In this world, there were plenty of people who didn't do proper work. Roughly 10 minutes later, Wang Zhen learned that Lu Qingyi had woken up, and Immortal Toya told him what Lu Qingyi had said after she had woken up, word for word. On the other end of the line, Wang Zhen's hands trembled as he gripped Wei Ji's home landline. She really said that. Wei Ji's forehead was covered in sweat at this scene. Fortunately, Wang Zhen's strength had already been sealed, otherwise his landline would have been directly scrapped. Immortal Toya, yes, what Miss Lu said to me just now was exactly what she said, word for word. Mr. Wang Zhen can rest assured now, Miss Lu doesn't have any feelings for you, and even wants to kill you. To Immortal Toya's surprise, Wang Zhen flew into a rage. F***K. How can this woman talk nonsense like this? How did my Wang family become a grandson? How did his Lu family become a grandfather? If it wasn't for my Wang family's financial support back then, the Lu family wouldn't even have been able to stand in the top 10. Immortal Toya, Mr. Wang Zhen, calm down first. It's possible that Miss Lu was careless after waking up. Ha! The way I see it, this woman is simply playing with fire. Wang Zhen punched Wei Ji's sofa. You! Give her the phone. I want to argue with her face to face. Immortal Toya, but didn't Mr. Wang Zhen say that you didn't want her to know about what happened in the world below? Wang Zhen, I thought she was going to chase me before, but I didn't expect her to want to kill me. I don't know who gave her the guts to do that. So it seems that she's the only one who could have done all those sneak attacks on me in the world above. I'm going to get even with her. If I don't teach her a lesson, she'll really think I'm easy to bully. Or you don't have to give her the phone, just tell her that if she has the guts, let's have a fight. Since she's a woman, I'll let her beat her with one hand and one leg. If we want to have a fight, Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch will be our witness. Immortal Toya, Wang Zhen, don't just stand there. Go tell her now. Immortal Toya, all right. About a few minutes later, In the treatment room, Miss Lu was so angry that she straight away got out of bed, her chest shaking wildly. Did he really say that? Immortal Toya, that's right, what Daoist Wangjin said to me just now was exactly what he said, word for word. Miss Lu can rest assured now, Daoist Wangjin doesn't have any feelings for you, and even wants to have a fight with you. As everyone knew, humans were essentially repeaters, everything was going according to Immortal Toya's plan. Miss Lu was furious. Damn! How can this man talk nonsense like this? When did my Lu family ever accept the Wang family's help? That's a loan. Do you understand how to turn a loan around? Our Lu family has to pay back the money with interest later on. And we've already paid it back. Isn't it just a fight? Come on. Let's see who kills who. Does Immortal Toya have a recommended location? It's best if it's next to that crispy noodles Dao monarch. Otherwise, this pig trotter won't go back on his word. Chapter 834. Whether it was Wang Zhen or Lu Qingyi, from Immortal Toya's initial impression of the two of them, he realized that the thinking of the people in the domain of the gods in the upper world wasn't very different from that of the people in the lower world. This was mainly reflected in the fact that they were flirtatious when they should be flirtatious and tsundere when they should be. After all, humans were essentially the same. The reason why people yearned to go to the upper world of the domain of the gods was that for most cultivators, it was a higher world. Since ancient times, whether it was ordinary people or cultivators, the constant pursuit of better things had always been one of the main reasons why humans had evolved and adapted to the present. After hearing Wang Zhen's declaration of war, Lu Qingyi was furious. Set up a time with Wang Zhen. I can already feel my blood surging in my body, and it's on the verge of bursting out. This Wang Zhen is really a narcissistic and arrogant guy. He actually boasted that he would let me use one of his arms and legs. Do I need him to let me? Miss Lu, don't be impatient. Immortal Toya laughed. Calm down first, don't be impatient. Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch went to the Foundation Establishment High School to experience life. If the two of you want to fight there, I'm afraid your realms will have to be suppressed. Otherwise, it'll be dangerous for other people. If two almighties whose realms surpassed venerated immortals fought at the Foundation Establishment High School, even if they just released their auras, the students of number 60 high might not be able to withstand it. At that time, number 60 high would really become a graveyard. The main thing was that Immortal Toya had to find another opportunity to talk to Wang Ling about this matter. Number 60 high's first semester final exams were approaching, and Immortal Toya guessed that Wang Ling wouldn't be in the mood to deal with this matter. Wang Ling had said before that he would ask Wang Zhen about the domain of the gods, but in the end, because of the exams, he didn't have the time, so he had left Wang Zhen at Wei Ji's place and stood him up until now, so in the end, Wang Ling had to make the arrangements. Immortal Toya had also thought it through before choosing to arrange for the two of them to stay at number 60 high. The reason was very simple, because there was no one in the lower world who could suppress these two great gods. It was August 10th on Thursday in the 15th week of the semester. The final exams would be held tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This time, the final exams would be conducted without classes, which meant that there would be no classes after the exams, and students could go home to revise. But for the vast majority of students, revision was impossible. Number 60 high's curriculum and activity schedule this semester was really too tight. Most students' attitude toward the suspended classes and exams was to go back and relax after the exams. After school, Wang Ling was wondering how on earth he could keep his marks down for tomorrow's exam, while Dopey Gua and the others were already making plans for tomorrow's stress reduction. Just as Wang Ling was about to break into a run and leave the classroom, Dopey Gua's hand was already on his shoulder. Wang Ling, Dopey Gua, my token. How about we go to karaoke tomorrow? There was a KTV next to number 60 high school, and Wang Ling heard that the original owner was a student from number 60 high school, so there was a special discount for students. The prices were so high that students could even afford to use their pocket money. Most KTVs nowadays had built-in space expansion technology, and there were both small and large private rooms. Furthermore, the prices weren't too different, and weren't as exaggerated as in old-school KTVs. Nowadays, almost all the expensive KTV services were available, but for students, it was just singing to relieve stress, and it didn't cost much at all. Of course, it wasn't that Wang Ling was worried about money. Was he that kind of person? But how many crispy noodle snack packets could he buy at a KTV? As Wang Ling's deskmate, Dopey Gwen knew very well that Wang Ling had a rather boring personality after interacting with him this semester, and was probably the type who didn't want to go out. But there weren't many boys in grade 1, class 3 to begin with. Dopey Gwen had asked several before, but had been rejected. When it came to karaoke, it was more fun with more people. Little Peanut suggested, I asked Lotus Sun and Little You, and they said they wanted to go shopping. How about we invite Fong Xing and Jiang Bai from class 2? Hearing this name, Wang Ling was suddenly dazed, and then remembered that there was a girl called Lotus Sun in their class. She was the eldest daughter of Huaguo Water Curtain Group. Official mockery here, I think that's fine. Super Chen nodded, then stretched out his other hand and put it on Wang Ling's other shoulder. Wang Ling, I know you won't refuse us, right? Wang Ling, this was a classic case of forcing a duck onto a perch, but Wang Ling knew most of the people going to the KTV this time, so he could only agree, and so, the matter of going to the KTV was happily settled. In the evening, Dopey Gua created an independent group chat for KTV. It was filled with people who were going to the KTV tomorrow. The fee was 48 yuan per person, including lunch and a fruit platter. It really wasn't expensive at all, but when Wang Ling calculated it, he realized that 48 yuan could pretty much buy a dozen or so ordinary crispy noodle snack packets, which was still a little painful. A few minutes later, Super Chen forwarded a piece of news to the group chat. Damn! Wu Xinjuan's album. Little Peanut was blank. Isn't Wu Xinjuan a teacher? How come he also released an album? Dopey Gua chuckled. After all, Wu Xinjuan is irascible Dharmaraja Wu Yifan's disciple. Isn't it normal for him to inherit his Shifu's legacy? At the summer camp in Beast King's Remains not long ago, Wu Xinjuan had demonstrated the high ultrasound technique which he had inherited from irascible Dharmaraja Wu Yifan, which had left a deep impression on all the students. Wu Xinjuan was indeed an extraordinary man. Dopey Gua, before Wu Xinjuan became a teacher, he started out as an idol singer. Furthermore, his singing style is exactly the same as that of his teacher, irascible Dharmaraja Wu Yifan. Wu Xinjuan's greatest characteristic is his brisk rhythm and electric music that makes people's scalps numb. Note, the above content has been copied and pasted from Qiandu Qianke. Wang Ling clicked on Super Chen's forward share to take a look. He realized that Wu Xinjuan's songs were actually ranked very high, but there were a lot of skepticism in the comments. Who is Wu Xinjuan? Why have I never heard of this singer? Also, is it appropriate for an entire album to be made up of electric music? Don't tell me this chart is fake. I beg this Wu Xinjuan's fans to stop faking it, otherwise he'll never know how to improve. Some people were skeptical, and naturally, there were fans who defended him. How can you say that about Wu Wu? Do you know how hard Wu Wu works? Wu Wu has a fever of 60 degrees, but he still perseveres in his ideals and works hard to sing. Wu Wu has been preparing this album for 3 years to give his fans a surprise. So what? Wu Wu is thinking about us. He sings electric music so that we don't have to bring power banks with us when we go out, so that the whole nation can charge up by listening to music. Wang Ling, seeing this, Wang Ling casually clicked on a demo song. The most amazing thing happened. Chapter 835. August 11th, the 15th Friday of the semester. It was the first day of number 60 High's first semester's final exams. The first day was a language exam, a Dao Talisman exam, and a Spirit Sword Operation exam. The Dao Talisman exam wasn't anything fancy, and mainly involved writing down the talisman application formulas and combining reactions. As for the Spirit Sword Operation exam, it tested each student's ability to control a spirit sword. The requirement for Foundation Establishment Senior High School was that everyone had to be proficient in controlling spirit swords. Whether or not they could nurture their own sword spirit while in school didn't matter, but by the time they graduated, all students had to learn how to fly on a sword. Currently, the requirements for the first year of high school were relatively relaxed. As long as the students could control their spirit swords, they would be able to do so within a range of 100 meters. Of course, this range was also related to one's realm. When controlling a spirit sword, the further the distance, the greater the consumption of spiritual energy and physical strength. Generally speaking, a distance of 150 meters to 200 meters in the Foundation Establishment stage was already the limit of the limit, and this also required special training. In the first year of high school, the highest standard to achieve excellence was the 100-meter sprint. The range of the Golden Core stage was even larger, 1,000 meters to 3,000 meters. Nascent Soul 5,000 m, 10,000 m, Huashan stage 20,000 meters, 100,000 meters. According to the different cultivation progress, everyone's range of control over the spirit sword was different. If one specialized in the spirit sword department after entering university, the range of control over the spirit sword would be larger after graduation. Currently, Blade Master General E was ranked first in the operating range of a spirit sword, and the only person on the list who could reach over 1 million meters. Of course, this didn't exclude the fact that some folk experts didn't want to participate in the rankings. For example, Wang Ling suppressed by the Dao Talisman, the range of his spirit swords could cross from one planet to another. If Wang Ling wanted to, he could even send Jinka to the moon. But he had already made thorough preparations for these 3 exams, and could be said to be extremely confident. Taking into account the current academic situation in Grade 1, Class 3, Wang Ling estimated everyone's scores, and finally set an average of 125 marks for the final exam. For the final exam, all subjects were scored on a 150-point scale. 125 points. This result was perfect. Generally speaking, this score was the kind that parents would frown when they saw it, but could only tell them to continue to work hard to get above 130 next time. The teachers would also be speechless when they saw this score. It didn't seem to be particularly bad, but this score wasn't worthy of praise. So in the end, most students with this score would be left hanging when the teachers announced it. For Wang Ling, the most difficult thing wasn't the final exam, but the karaoke KTV. He had already prepared all kinds of game consoles which Wang Ming had made for him, and they were better than those available on the market. It wasn't that he wanted to play games, but he really didn't want to sing KTV. So Wang Ling chose to play the game with his head down and gloriously play dead. While Wang Ling had his own troubles, Dharmaraja on the other side also had a new one. Ever since the Office of Strategic Deception was established, Dharmaraja had quit his job at the Shao family big yard and devoted himself wholeheartedly to being the head of the Office of Strategic Deception's logistics team. When he quit, the person in charge of the Shao family big yard even gave Dharmaraja his bonus. Of course, this bonus wasn't for Dharmaraja's sake, but for the Office of Strategic Deception's sake. Everyone knew that as the chief of the Office of Strategic Deception, grenade-throwing senior immortal had just advanced to true venerated a while ago, and the whole nation and foreign people had seen the Office of Strategic Deception's momentum on the day of its founding ceremony. No one dared offend such a flourishing sect. Dharmaraja had resigned from his job at the Shao family compound to go to the Office of Strategic Deception, but the Shao family compound had actually been very happy. When the HR department recruited people later, they could use Dharmaraja as a gimmick to further expand the reputation of their Shao family compound park, the current logistics team leader of the Office of Strategic Deception, Lightning Dharmaraja, was in charge of the park's infrastructure and logistical maintenance. Although he had already left, he was still a former employee of the Shao family compound. Of course, apart from freeloading on Dharmaraja's reputation, if the Shao family compound and the Office of Strategic Deception cooperated in the future, Dharmaraja would definitely be the middleman. This was society. After you quit a job, if your original employer treated you well, you would still have feelings for it. And so, Dharmaraja left just like that. Furthermore, he left with a bountiful pot of money. But Dharmaraja didn't expect a big problem to arise after he left. There were always some colleagues who inexplicably disliked you at work. Dharmaraja had been the logistics director when he was still here, but now that he was gone, there were all sorts of things to say. The Shao family compound's management was very clear about Dharmaraja's departure. They encouraged and supported him, and even gave him an extra bonus. But it was hard for Dharmaraja to stop these people's mouths. Dharmaraja didn't even know which brother he had offended at work. In the last 2 days, Weibo and the Cultivation Forum had been full of posts defaming him. At that moment, Dharmaraja was complaining to Immortal Toya. "I just quit my job, and now the whole internet is defaming me. Little brother, what's the matter with you?" Immortal Toya smiled. "You probably offended someone at your previous workplace, right? I've always felt that I'm pretty popular." Dharmaraja sighed. "You may know a person's face, but you can't judge his heart. You've just left, and someone is already defaming you. It looks like it's been simmering for a long time, and it just exploded all at once." "Immortal Toya, what are they defaming you about?" "Brother 2, do you know that there's another Dharmaraja circulating on the internet?" "Yes. I remember that. Although I've always joked about that Dharmaraja before, saying that electric shocks can cure internet addiction and so on. I really am not that lightning Dharmaraja. I'm the heir to the Thunder clan's godly thunder inheritance, and a genuine 8-star electrician. Licensed." "Immortal Toya, Lightning Dharmaraja, Brother 2, there's something you don't know, but there was a rumor on the internet about treatment room number 13. There's a psychiatrist there who lied about using a treatment device he developed to treat internet addiction in children, but in fact, he tricked them into locking them up in the isolation room and subjecting them to electric shocks. If they don't admit their mistakes, the electric shocks will continue. I know about this." Immortal Toya frowned. "As far as I know, treatment room number 13 doesn't just treat children, it also treats a lot of adults. But didn't the treatment room close down after it was exposed? Even that doctor's Weibo account was deleted." Dharmaraja sighed. "It's because it was deleted that it's a pain in the ass. Also, I'm guessing that the treatment room is probably still open. Now, that group of people online keeps saying that I'm that electrotherapist smurf account." Chapter 836. Treatment Room 13 was rumored to have been shut down after it was exposed on the internet back then, but the truth was that this internet addiction treatment center hadn't been shut down. Dharmaraja was complaining to Immortal Toya, but in fact, he was well aware that the sudden violence online was like eating a bitter pill in silence. It was too easy for netizens nowadays to be swayed by public opinion, and there was a lot of online resentment toward the internet addiction treatment center. Many anonymous or even public exposures had appeared one after another, posting long articles detailing their experiences in the center. The parents who sent their children there all had the same characteristics. For example, they had a low level of education. For example, they spoiled their children too much. For example, they had a strong desire to control their children. For example, they all believed that as long as their children could change, it would be fine even if they used a little violence. After the incident was exposed, Treatment Room 13 had been shut down due to public resentment a few years ago, but the truth was that this mysterious treatment room had been operating in secret all along. There were already some cracks on the gray wallpaper. A middle-aged man wearing an eye patch was sitting in his seat in a dark office. His hair was a little sparse and he looked like a greasy middle-aged man. His head was a little sunken and his face was covered in scratches, but these wounds had been there for a long time. This was an office as well as a treatment room. The layout inside was very simple. Apart from an office desk, there was also a rectangular table. This table was made entirely of black iron and was wrapped in a thin layer of plastic film. The workmanship looked very exquisite. On the edge of the table, there were several shackles that could be used to restrain one's movements. Not long after the man waited in front of the desk, a young man slowly walked in. The young man was wearing a special Daoist robe with a rather exotic style. There were hundreds of folds on the clothes, like layers of Michelin tires wrapped around his body. On the top of the young man's head, there were two tentacle-like things stretching out. "Welcome, Mr. Longming." Seeing the young man approach, the middle-aged man hurriedly got up. The location Dr. Yang chose was very secretive, but it took my master quite a while to find it. Longming raised his eyebrows, then asked, "So, are you willing to accept my master's conditions? I've also long heard of Venerable White's great name. Each of the conditions Venerable White has proposed has poked at my sore spot. Therefore, I have no reason to refuse." A strange smile appeared on the face of the man. "However, this injury of mine was appraised a long time ago and is incurable. Even if I were to undergo plastic surgery, I would slowly revert to my current appearance. People are sent here for a variety of reasons. Some are in love, some are addicted to mahjong or games, and there are even some who always come to me for electrocution to treat their impotence because their married lives aren't harmonious." Yang Huai chuckled, a rather wretched expression on his face. That soul formation cultivator who was sent here was actually a deputy sect leader. Unfortunately, this deputy sect leader didn't get along with the sect leader, and the two of them always held different views on the sect's general direction. But this deputy sect leader was extremely cautious and never let the sect leader get anything on him. But if you walk by the river often, how can your shoes not get wet? Longming, so, why was he sent here? Yang Huai, last Mid-Autumn Festival, the sect had to send mooncakes to all their partners, and the deputy sect leader was in charge of ordering them. And this deputy sect leader actually ordered several carts of 5-kernel mooncakes. Longming, what about 5-kernel mooncakes? Yang Huai, doesn't Mr. Longming think 5-kernel filling is disgusting? For example, I like them with seaweed filling. Longming. Chapter 837. Yang Huai had a habit of videotaping the treatment at the same time. This wasn't to admire the patient's pained expressions, but purely for the sake of his own electrocution treatment. Every time he treated them, he would adjust the power of the treatment apparatus based on the cultivators of different realms, and he would make repeated adjustments through the video. Generally speaking, when the treatment apparatus was turned on, it would make people feel pain, but wouldn't knock them out or electrocute them to death, which was the most ideal effect. Yang Huai knew that when the treatment room had just opened, his ancestor had accidentally electrocuted several people to death because he hadn't controlled the power of the apparatus well, causing the treatment room to fall into a storm for a while. But every time this happened, it would eventually be suppressed by the families of the other patients in the treatment room. In the minds of those families, their children were already beyond saving, so this treatment was the only way for them. As a therapist who corrected abnormal behavior, Yang Huai's ancestor was once supported by these families and became an emperor-like figure in the entire treatment room. Every day, people came to give him gifts, and he enjoyed the applause and worship of others every day. Even if someone came to cause trouble, they would be strangled in the cradle by his people. Other than treatment, the Yang family never had to worry about anything else. This is a precious video. Mr. Longming, after watching it, I hope you won't leak it. Yang Huai took out a CD and smiled at Longming. Although this Dr. Yang's strength was far inferior to his, Long Ming still couldn't help but feel a shiver in his heart when the devil-like lips curled up. At the same time, Long Ming noticed that Yang Huai's discs were all specially made. They were made of a material that was impervious to water and fire, and even had some dustproof properties. The surface of each disc was very smooth. When Yang Huai pushed the disc into the player, he let out a long sigh. It's a pity there wasn't such convenient technology back then, otherwise my ancestors' information wouldn't have been burned. Long Ming was silent, just staring at the image in the video. Soon, the disc was red. A young man in a white short-sleeved shirt appeared in the video. If Yang Huai hadn't said it himself, Long Ming would have found it hard to believe that this was actually a deputy sect leader at the soul formation stage. At that moment, the young man's limbs were being restrained by 5 strong men. 4 of them were holding his hands and feet, and one of them was gagging him with a ball to prevent him from biting his tongue during the treatment. Even though his wrists and ankles were shackled, in any case, he's a soul formation powerhouse, so I specially gave him preferential treatment. In addition to restraining his movements with handcuffs and leg irons, I also sent someone else to suppress him, Yang Huai explained as he admired his work. In the video, the treatment device used by the deputy sect master was the one in front of Long Ming. It didn't look very impressive, but it contained a terrifying power. Am I wrong? In the video, Yang Huai spoke slowly, his voice as cold as an ice cave. In the silent treatment room, apart from the sounds of the deputy sect leader's handcuffs and shackles as he struggled, there was only his voice, and the faint electromagnetic sound of the miniature stun gun on the treatment device. Open his mouth and let him speak. Yang Huai ordered the burly man who had covered the deputy sect leader's mouth. The treatment did not last long, only 10 to 30 seconds, but it was enough to make the deputy sect master sweat profusely. His face was pale, like a zombie that had just woken up from its coffin. He asked you to send me in. Clearly, the deputy sect master had no idea what had happened before, but after he woke up, he could roughly guess the current situation. Wrong answer. Before he could finish asking, Yang Huai had already turned on the treatment device again, talking to himself. An electric current ran straight through his brain from his temples, down his brain stem, and down his spine to his whole body. A few wisps of white smoke rose from where he had been electrocuted. This is... Long Ming could smell the smell of barbecued meat through the screen. This is the latest recording technology, even the smell can be restored, Yang Huai replied. Long Ming, here, all questions had to be answered accurately, and the answers had to be precise, or else he would have to face the next treatment. In the video, Yang Huai spoke again. Mr. Deputy Sect Master, it's better for you to admit your mistake quickly. Of course, you can also choose to continue receiving treatment. After the first treatment session, you have a week to recover. Yang Huai's hands paused, and he moved the stun gun away so that the young man would be absolutely conscious when he explained the situation, so that he could hear every word clearly. Yang Huai, the first treatment session must last for 30 days. For the first 10 days, you'll be electrocuted for 3,600 seconds a day. After you get used to it, the duration will increase from 3,600 seconds to 7,200 seconds. The deputy sect master was silent for a moment, then spoke again. Are you treating him or extorting a confession, 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 confession? But before he could finish speaking, the sound of electric current was heard again. Was I wrong? 5 kernel mooncakes are really delicious. Buzz buzz buzz, do you still dare to bicker with Mr. Authentic in the future? I'm the deputy sect master, he has no right to do this to me. He'll suffer divine retribution and the board's verdict. Buzz buzz buzz, you actually like 5 kernel mooncakes, you're really a cult. You're as unreasonable as those who eat savory tofu pudding, pancakes, and youtiao. Buzz buzz buzz, you devil. You'll suffer divine retribution sooner or later. You actually dare to struggle. I'll let you struggle. I'll let you struggle. Buzz 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 buzz, Long Ming, after who knew how many times, the deputy sect master finally fainted from the endless electric shocks. By then, Long Ming had already smelled something similar to steak. The strong men let go of him one by one. Because the deputy sect master had already fainted, Dr. Yang, aren't we going a little too far? Actually, I think 5 Colonel Mooncakes are fine. You heretic, do you want to be treated too? But Dr. Yang, this deputy sect master seems to be cooked. Yang Huai bent down and sniffed, then stuck out his tongue to lick the young man's cheek. About medium rare. Everyone, Yang Huai, give him a sobriety injection and continue the treatment. We've been treating too many patients recently, and we've seriously overspent our food expenses. To save costs, if this deputy sect master's treatment continues to fail and he's cooked, he'll be our food. Chapter 838. As everyone knew, before Mo Immortal Castle was officially incorporated into the Office of Strategic Deception's intelligence unit, it had been Songhai City's largest underground intelligence network, and was famous in the industry for peddling intelligence on the cultivation world. Of course, before incorporating Mo Immortal Castle, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and several of the Office of Strategic Deception's management team leaders had figured out a very important pattern. They realized that any organization that went to Mo Immortal Castle to buy intelligence would ultimately be caught in the net of the law. So after some discussion, everyone felt that although Mo Immortal Castle had already been officially incorporated, the base in Songhai City couldn't be evacuated, and the underground intelligence business had to continue. Of course, all of this was based on the Office of Strategic Deception and Huaxiao Alliance's strict supervision. Some information could be disclosed and some couldn't, and whether or not it could be sold was all decided by the Office of Strategic Deception's top brass. The intelligence that was sold was also to catch big fish with a long line, so that Huaxiao Alliance could further crack down on evil forces. But this situation wouldn't last for long. Currently, most people were in the dark about Mo Immortal Castle's incorporation, but no one could guarantee that it wouldn't be exposed one day. Once this matter was exposed, the fishing law enforcement business would no longer be able to continue. So, at the very least, they could hide and catch a few big fish before that happened. The founder of the Dark Network and the leaders of the Dark Forces had yet to be captured, and Huaxiao Alliance had joined forces with all the Light Forces to issue bounties for their arrest and punishment. After the matter of Ultimate King of Killers came to an end, General Li and the others had a hunch that this year might be the most fruitful. Given Ultimate King of Killers' influential position in the Dark Network and the Dark Forces, his fall was bound to have a major impact on the entire underground Dark Network and its network of Dark Forces. Of course, food had to be eaten bite by bite, a path had to be walked step by step, and words had to be written word by word. All of this had to be done slowly. It was August 12th on Saturday in the 15th week of the semester. It was the second day of number 60 High's first semester final exam. One day until the end of the semester. About 500 days until Wang Ling's graduation, until the end of the novel, depends on the author's mood. After the exam, Dopigwa didn't seem to be in a good mood, and seemed a little depressed. Super Chin, you screwed up. Dopigwa, shut up. Super Chin, recently, Dopigwa realized that Super Chen's mouth seemed to have been blessed. If someone else said he flunked the exam, he would just take it as a joke, but when Super Chin said this, he instantly panicked. Super Chin raised his hand and made a gesture of surrender. I was wrong. Brother, you did very well. More than 90 points. Dopigwa heaved a sigh of relief. Okay. Steady, steady. But on second thought, Dopigwa felt that something was wrong. They were using a 150-point system. Holy shit. This mouthful of milk, Dopigwa clutched his chest, feeling as if he had a heart attack. When I go back to play games tonight, my keyboard won't be leaking milk, right? Dopigwa sighed. I have an uncle who is very close to me. He's actually not that old, but his family is forcing him to get married. What do you think is going on? Little Peanut asked, what about your uncle's attitude? Dopey-gua, of course not. He hadn't had enough fun yet. It was so much freedom to be single. Why are you starting a family so early? Then why aren't you happy that your uncle is being urged to get married? Don't tell me you. Super Chin took a deep breath. Don't tell me you. Oh my God. I always thought you were straight. Nonsense. Of course I'm straight. The reason why I'm unhappy is that my pocket money has always been given to me by my uncle. If he gets married, my pocket money will most likely be given to his girlfriend. Dopey-gua sighed. I used his pocket money to buy Big Cousin 2 days ago. In the future, if he's taken care of by his girlfriend, who's going to buy games for me? Wong Ling, this reason was too real. And that's not the worst. Dopey-gua frowned. Have you heard? 2 years ago, the Internet Rehabilitation Center that was shut down all along was still open. It's now called the Abnormal Behavior Rehabilitation Center. My uncle told me before that his family is planning to send him there. Super Chin was blank. No way, they're going to send him there for such a trivial matter. Dopey-gua, many people have been sent to prison because of trivial matters. Super Chin, your uncle is so pitiful. After school today, my uncle asked me out for coffee to vent his grievances. I'll be leaving first, and you can watch my unlucky uncle from behind. Speaking up to this point, Dopey-gua suddenly turned his gaze to Wong Ling. Actually, my uncle and Wong Ling are a little alike. Super Chin, what do you mean? Dopey-gua, dead fish eyes. Wong Ling, Dopey-gua. So, when I first met Wong Ling at school, I felt an inexplicable sense of security and intimacy. Wong Ling, after the exams, Wong Ling went home with Dopey-gua's uncle to vent his grievances to, so he left with him first. There was always a focal point at a party, and these focal points were the people who could control the pace of the party and make the atmosphere warm up. Dopey-gua had always played this role. So, without him, it wouldn't be a party. There were no activities today. Everyone went home and looked for their mothers. Wong Ling was actually quite happy. He had almost died of embarrassment at the KTV yesterday. At the school gate, Wong Ling followed Super Chin and Little Peanut to see this young man who was supposedly being urged to get married. As Dopey-gua had said, his uncle was quite young, and was a very sunny and handsome young man. The most important thing was that, as Dopey-gua had said, this young man had a pair of dead fish eyes that resembled Wong Ling's, except that he lacked that little bit of bearing. Furthermore, this uncle seemed to cry a lot. When he saw Dopey-gua come out, his eyes were red, and he hurriedly put on the sunglasses he had prepared. What a pitiful person, Wong Ling sighed. When he turned a fork in the road and parted ways with Super Chin and Little Peanut, Wong Ling, who was walking with his head down, was suddenly stopped by two huge figures. One of them looked down at the photo in his hand and asked the other, "Is that him?" The other person, dead fish eyes, that's right. Take him away. Wong Ling. Then, the two of them grabbed Wong Ling's arms and pulled him into the van. Wong Ling deduced that these were probably the group of people from the Internet Addiction Center that Dopey-gua had mentioned earlier. It was just that these two idiots might have mistaken him for someone else. Chapter 839. In the van, two brawny men put a black hood over Wong Ling's head, but he appeared very calm. This could be considered a life experience. In a person's life, how many times did they get kidnapped on the way home from school? In the past, Wong Ling had pretended to be lured by snacks to have human traffickers deliberately abduct him, and then followed the clues to help the police destroy human traffickers' nests. But those human traffickers' methods were actually quite tactful. Most of them used food or drinks to trick ignorant children into falling for it. But these two gluttons had directly dragged Wang Ling into the van without saying a word. In Wang Ling's view, this could be considered a bold move from a skilled person. Wang Ling himself hadn't expected this to happen at all. His eyelid warning, this was a special warning that usually occurred when Wang Ling encountered something that he thought was troublesome and tricky. But kidnapping, for Wang Ling, this wasn't troublesome or tricky at all. This was stretching his muscles and bones. It would help him keep his grades down in tomorrow's exam. There was only one day left before the summer break, and Wang Ling was in a great mood. In any case, he didn't have any activities scheduled for the afternoon. It was good to play with this group of people. Furthermore, using his mind-reading spell, Wang Ling discovered that these two people were from that mysterious internet ring center, which made him even more interested. Even Mo Immortal Castle didn't have any accurate leads on that nest. Ever since it had been shut down after being reported a few years ago, word had been circulating on the internet that this internet ring center had been turned into a behavior modification treatment center, which was mobile and didn't have a fixed location. Unless someone from the inside led the way, it was impossible to find out where it was. In the van, the driver stopped at an intersection and casually lit a cigarette. He then looked at Wang Ling, whose head was covered. "Have you confirmed it? Why does it feel like things are going so smoothly?" "Yes, it's exactly the same as in the photo." One of the brawny men holding Wang Ling down nodded. "Wang Ling. What if *** king exactly the same? Don't tell me you kidnapped a student." The driver chuckled. "How is that possible? Students nowadays wear school uniforms. This number 60 high's uniform is so ugly, it's very recognizable," the brawny man said again. Wang Ling, he wasn't wearing his school uniform today. There were no classes at the end of the semester. Although there were still people who came to take the exam in school uniforms, there was more freedom in what they wore during this period. To ensure that every student could take the exam in the most relaxed mood, number 60 high school made an exception during this kind of large-scale exam period, allowing students to wear whatever they liked and were comfortable with. No wonder these two idiots mistook him for someone else. It was because he wasn't wearing his school uniform. Wang Ling sighed in his heart. "Why hasn't he spoken since we brought him into the car?" one of the men suddenly asked. At that moment, Wang Ling suddenly realized that his behavior might be a little abnormal. Generally speaking, after being kidnapped, one should struggle a little. If he appeared to be too calm, it might not be good. Thus, he closed his eyes and started to control the air around him to attack his skin to create the feeling that he was trembling with fear. Wang Ling didn't know how often he would tremble. After all, he had never trembled since he was a child. The only time he had trembled was 6 years ago when Dog 2 had still been a sky-swallowing toad, when its butt had smashed the century-old crispy noodle snack flagship store. Sure enough, when the two brawny men saw Wang Ling start to tremble, they calmed down a lot. "Ha ha ha ha, looks like you're too scared to speak. Little brother, don't be afraid. We're just taking you to get a massage. Don't be nervous." One of the brawny men patted Wang Ling on the shoulder. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that Wang Ling was vibrating a little fast, just like the vibrator he had used 2 days ago. The van drove on the road for more than an hour. Finally, the van entered a park and stopped in the park's parking lot. After the driver had finished his job, he drove the van away again, as if he was going to pick up the next person. The two brawny men shoved Wang Ling into the thicket. One of them then took off Wang Ling's hood, and a wooden house marked 13 came into view. The legendary treatment room 13 had now become a mobile wooden house. It didn't look very big, but it gave off a very gloomy feeling. Furthermore, space expansion technology had been used inside. After being pushed in by the two men, Wang Ling judged from their auras that there were at least 100 people inside the wooden house. Wang Ling was shocked. This was simply a mobile prison cell. Wang Ling waited in the lobby for a while under the watch of the two brawny men, and it wasn't long before Yang Huai came out. Next to him was an acquaintance whom Wang Ling had fought before. Long Ming. The two of them talked and laughed as they walked toward the lobby. Hee, rest assured, Mr. Long Ming, there's no problem with your request. I'll make arrangements right away to make those number 60 high kids obedient. Then I'll have to trouble Dr. Yang with this revenge plan. Long Ming smiled. Revenge plan? No. Mr. Long Ming, you're wrong. This is an educational plan. Ha. Yes, Dr. Yang is right. This is an educational plan. At that moment, the two men had already reached Wang Ling. When Long Ming looked down at Wang Ling, his face changed in fright and he broke out in a cold sweat. F***K, why was it him? One of the brawny men got up and said to Yang Huai, Dr. Yang, we've brought the patient, Guo Feng. Yang Huai, Mr. Long Ming, let me explain that this is a new patient I'm treating today, Guo Feng. He's rather introverted. His family has tried many times to persuade him to get married, but he never agreed, so they sent me here. I bought a primary treatment package. Long Ming was blank. Guo Feng. Had he mistaken him for someone else? Just as he was about to open his mouth to confirm with Yang Huai, who knew that the youngster sitting there would suddenly raise his eyes to look at him. This look directly struck Long Ming's heart, and he froze on the spot in fright, feeling all the hair on his body stand on end. Dr. Yang. I have something to do today. I'm leaving first. In the next second, Long Ming directly rushed out of the wooden house without another word. That was right, he directly rushed out. That look just now was too frightening. Long Ming had no doubt that if he hadn't left, this youngster would have taken his life in an instant. Wang Ling's gaze was as calm as autumn water as he swept the door. Long Ming had escaped, but he wouldn't be able to run for long. Wang Ling had already left a mark on him with that look just now. Chapter 840. After being shut down in protest by netizens back then, the famous Internet Rehab Center had now become a mobile abnormal behavior correction center. So far, there were more than 100 patients in it. These patients were of all ages, young and old. Some had been sent in by their families because they liked playing mahjong, some had been sent in because of puppy love, some had been sent in because they drank Coca-Cola instead of Pepsi, and some, like Dopey Guo's uncle, Guo Feng, had been sent in because he was slow to find a girlfriend to marry. The patients who were admitted here had all sorts of reasons, and all of them were abnormal, which was in line with Dr. Yang's usual treatment style. In the waiting hall earlier, when Long Ming had recognized Wang Ling and fled, Wang Ling had used the Great Blood Origin spell to trace this Dr. Yang's ancestors, and in the end discovered that this Dr. Yang's ancestors had actually been beaten up by Wang Jin. Back then, the 36th generation had been beaten up by Wang Jin, and starting from the 36th generation, Wang Jin's disfiguring curse had been passed down. But it was a pity, perhaps this curse would end in this generation. Because in a little while, this place would disappear forever. At that moment, Wang Ling was already chained to the bed. The feeling of being handcuffed for the first time in his life was actually a little strange. But it was best not to try this kind of experience. Wang Ling didn't want to be like that Sister Tri, in the subway, who refused to listen to advice and even attacked a police officer with a knife. There were always some self-righteous, giant babies in society who thought that everyone would give in to them and take care of them in every possible way. But reality proved that this kind of people just lacked half a brain. Obeying the law was something that even a primary school student understood, but some people who went to university still wanted to violate it. So reality proved that a person's quality and education didn't have much to do with each other. It all depended on family education. On this point, Father and Mother Wang were more confident than anyone else. Although Wang Ling had been a little chinibu as a child, the couple had still managed to get their son on the right track. After thinking about it carefully, Wang Ling felt that it actually had a lot to do with father and mother Wang writing novels. People who wrote novels were more or less chinibu, so father and mother Wang were very confident in educating people who were chinibu. At that moment, Wang Ling was lying on the treatment table, his limbs held down by several strong men, one of whom had stuffed a ball into his mouth. Gotcha. Then, he very calmly crushed the ball in his mouth. Yang Huai was taken aback. I didn't think you'd be a martial artist. The brawny man who stuffed the balls was also a little confused. Dr. Yang, what do we do now? Bring me black iron, Yang Huai said. The burly man nodded, and with a flash of light, an 80 by 40 metal box appeared in his hand. When the box was opened, there were all kinds of balls made of different materials inside. When the burly man stuffed the black iron ball into Wang Ling's mouth, everyone heard a crisp crack. Yang Huai furrowed his eyebrows and was a little angry. Take something made of mysterious divine jade. Gotcha, Yang Huai, bring the great harmony diamond ones. Gotcha, Yang Huai, revered black crystal. High-grade mystic crystal. I don't believe it. Gotcha, the brawny man, do you still want it? Dr. Yang. Yang Huai was already sweating. Take. Motherf asterisk cur. Forget it, let's leave it at that, if he bites his tongue, it's his own business. Yang Huai always felt very excited during treatment, especially when he saw a ball stuffed in the patient's mouth. It was as if that excitement could activate his adrenaline, and the more he electrocuted him, the more excited he became. But now, because the ball wasn't in his mouth, this Dr. Yang's excitement instantly dissipated by more than half. At that moment, Yang Huai was inexplicably exhausted and annoyed. He had run this clinic for many years, and had seen all kinds of strange patients. Even a soul formation cultivator could only be electrocuted here, and in the end, they would have to bow their heads and submit to him. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? An inexplicable anger made Yang Huai subconsciously turn the dial on the treatment device straight to the 10th gear, which directly startled the brawny man next to him. According to the family information on the patient they had kidnapped this time, he was only at the qi condensation stage, and wasn't particularly powerful. To directly start with the 10th gear treatment was already completely out of the norm. Usually, when the qi condensation treatment was turned on at the 2nd or 3rd gear, the patient would already feel enough pain, but now, the treatment had actually been increased 5-fold. The ultimate treatment device in treatment room 13 had a total of 100 power levels, and even a god or devil would have to kneel before it. He was able to crush my ball, which proves that this person's strength definitely isn't as his family reported. He's definitely hiding something. Yang Huai sneered. Since he dared to resist him, he should be prepared to accept humiliation. Oh, no, treatment. Thus, while Wang Ling was filled with anticipation, Yang Huai's stun gun finally pressed against his temples. This was a necessary step for all patients undergoing treatment. The stun gun would start stimulating the temples on both sides, and then quickly move to the space between the eyebrows before merging. Depending on the patient's condition, this process would last for 10 to 30 seconds. But at that moment, Yang Huai was in a fit of anger, so he deliberately pushed very slowly and directly limited the treatment to a maximum of 30 seconds. Wang Ling could feel an electric current passing through his pores, but he didn't struggle at all. Because it was actually a very comfortable feeling. The electric current poured in from the temples and finally slowly retired to the space between the eyebrows. Somehow, Wang Ling felt that this action was a little familiar. When the electric current converged on the space between the eyebrows, he finally remembered. This was clearly an eye exercise, pressing the temples and scraping the eye sockets. But the electric current stimulation was clearly more comfortable than the eye exercise. He had been taking exams all morning, but in the end, he was receiving an electric therapy massage here, which was pretty good. On the other side, the burly man and Yang Huai who were holding Wang Ling down were also stupefied. To be honest, this was the first time they had encountered such a situation. This patient actually didn't have the slightest reaction to the electric current stimulation. "I'm going to kill you." Yang Huai was emboldened, and he gritted his teeth angrily. Then, he directly turned on the treatment device to the 50th gear. Although he didn't turn it all on, the 50th gear, even a soul formation cultivator wouldn't be able to handle it. Even if this person could crush the ball in his mouth, Yang Huai believed that the strength of the 50th gear was enough to send him to hell 80 times over. Go to hell. Chapter 841. There weren't many people who could withstand level 50, which was a fatal level of electricity. A soul formation cultivator wouldn't die, but living at this level would be worse than death. Previously, there had been no more than 10 people who could be treated at this level, and among them, there were some famous names. The treatment center's cure success rate wasn't 100%, and was maintained at 97%, so there were still cases of treatment failure. For example, a few years ago, Yang Huai remembered an author who was sent to treatment room 13 after being bribed by readers to update a chapter every day. But because his skin was too thick, the electricity couldn't move him, and he could only give up in the end. For example, there was another author who went out every day to collect materials, which led to mental exhaustion and disharmony between husband and wife, and he was also sent to treatment room 13. In the end, the electric current stimulated his meridians, and he was even cured of his impotence. Another example was a dancer who was dancing well, but insisted on going out to sing. Because his singing was too bad, his fans crowdfunded him to be sent to treatment room 13. In the end, after treatment, he unexpectedly became the king of EDM, and attracted a lot of fans both inside and outside the circle, and people gave him the nickname, EDM Little Prince. But this kind of situation had become very rare since last year, because every patient who was sent here had been carefully selected. Yang Huai wouldn't accept those whose realms were too high or who were resistant to treatment. Most of the patients who could stay in the treatment center were ordinary people, and only a few were at the foundation establishment stage, so Yang Huai was very surprised by Guofen's situation. He was just an ordinary person, but he had managed to resist Yang Huai's repeated treatments, so when level 50 of electricity pierced his skin and passed through his body, his eyebrows finally twitched slightly. He could feel the heat in his body continuously growing. This was too comfortable. This level of massage was actually just right for Wang Ling, but it was still a little lacking compared to the Heavenly Dao Lightning Tribulation. The Heavenly Dao Lightning Tribulation was quite ferocious. Wang Ling had only triggered a lightning tribulation after his childhood memories had gradually awakened and he had slowly completed the 3,000 great spells. But strangely, the lightning hadn't been aimed at him, but it seemed to be venting something. But Wang Ling had still used his own strength to draw the Heavenly Dao lightning to himself. He wanted to see what it felt like to be struck by lightning. To this day, Wang Ling couldn't forget that feeling. Normal cultivators were all afraid of the heavenly tribulation lightning, because during the process of transcending a tribulation, the mortality rate was very high. This was the eagle claw, and with a single thought, he could take the boy's life. Be good and don't do anything else, do you understand? Yang Huai stared at the teenager. The teenager was obviously a little scared, and his body couldn't help trembling. Uncle Yang. I'm the class monitor. I'll listen to Uncle Yang. Uncle Yang, don't shock me, be good, as long as you're good, Uncle Yang won't shock you, Yang Huai said in a low voice, but his eyes were fixed in Wang Ling's direction. At that moment, Wang Ling had already stepped out of the treatment room. He had long since anticipated this scumbag's next move. Sure enough, this person had already lost his humanity. At this juncture, he actually wanted to use the lives of other children as a condition to hold Wang Ling hostage. And it was this kind of heartless, inhumane, an indifferent bastard beast who could actually escape punishment from the law and live comfortably until now. Where was justice? Where was Heavenly Tao? Could it be that Heavenly Tao was blind? Wang Ling questioned in his heart. But what he didn't know was that these three questions had actually directly shaken the heavens. After these three questions, the great Heavenly Taos all trembled when they heard this. As for the Heavenly Tao conference table, after these three questions, it actually flipped itself over and flew away. Strength Heavenly Tao, Table God, you, Heavenly Tao conference table, I'll leave first, I wish you all good health. Chapter 842. As the saying goes, nothing can be accomplished without rules. At the Heavenly Tao Governing Committee meeting, nothing could be accomplished without the Table God. Wang Ling's fury had scared the Table God so much that he had directly shut himself off, which was enough to show how serious the situation was. Sometimes, anger could be divided into two aspects. After so many years of dealing with this big shot on the white list, the Heavenly Tao Governing Committee could tentatively attribute this big shot's anger to two aspects. One was from the heart, and the other was from the soul. The crispy noodle snacks had been destroyed and wasted. He was angry from the bottom of his heart. And this time, even the Table God had left. Obviously, the loss of self-control was even more serious. This kind of anger originated from the soul. This person has already incurred the wrath of the masses, which is why this wrath is so powerful. Fellow Taoist Wang has only used himself as a bridge to draw the wrath of the masses here. Spirit Heavenly Tao sighed. I just didn't expect that such a person who has incurred the wrath of the masses still hasn't been judged yet. I've already investigated. Life and Death Heavenly Tao said, the Yang family's founding ancestor, Yang Wuda, once activated the Heavenly Tao Equivalence Exchange Array. This person contributed a skull from Nizalek's tomb to the Heavenly Tao. In exchange for this rare treasure, the Yang family would not be judged by the power of the Heavenly Tao for generations to come. The other Heavenly Taos were shocked. There's such a thing. Life and Death Heavenly Tao said, I've already looked into it, and the Heavenly Tao monolith inscriptions do mention it. But if you want to blame someone, you can only blame Yang Wuda's descendants for being too immoral. In the 36th generation, the 36th generation of the Yang family was once beaten up by one of Tao ancestor Wang's grandsons. All of you should have an impression of this person. Is it Wang Zhen, whose strength has already been sealed? That's right, it's him. Strength Heavenly Tao was relieved. It looks like this incident weakened the connection between the Yang family and the Heavenly Tao. The contract from back then lasted for 36 generations, and then the Wang family intervened. No wonder the power of the contract has weakened, allowing fellow Taoist Wang Ling's soul fury to reach here. What other thoughts do you have on this matter? How should we deal with Yang Huai? The rest of the Heavenly Tao said in unison, what else can we think? I've tolerated him for a long time. Strength Heavenly Tao said coldly, I want him to lose all his power, and then watch helplessly as his muscles shrink bit by bit every day until he becomes a dwarf forever. Life Death Heavenly Tao said, the Lord of Strength isn't vicious enough. Strength Heavenly Tao chuckled. What a joke. I've fought no less than 10,000 battles, big and small, and I've long since mastered this precise strike technique. So you, Life and Death Heavenly Tao, are looking down on me. Weren't you the one who complained about me to Tao founder before? Life and Death Heavenly Tao broke out in a sweat. Strength Lord, why do you say that? Strength Heavenly Tao, forget it, forget it. Right now, we share a common enemy. It's more important to teach this evil creature on the ground a lesson first. At the same time, Wang Ling had already come up with 10,000 ways to deal with Yang Huai, protect this youngster, and at the same time make Yang Huai feel like he was better off dead than alive, and finally get Yang Huai punished by the law. First, save the youngster, control Yang Huai, call Ajua, then have him take Yang Huai to prison, and let him think of 10,000 ways. This plan could simply be called perfect. Wang Ling was pondering how to make a move when he suddenly heard a clap of thunder in the sky. In the next moment, several pairs of large hands covered in talismans and strange runes actually sprouted directly from the ground and wrapped themselves around Yang Huai's body. Yang Huai realized that he actually couldn't move. At the same time, the strength in his body was dissipating bit by bit, as if he had been hit by a paralyzing drug. Sensing Yang Huai's abnormality, the youngster who was being held hostage hurriedly pushed him away. Chapter 843. It was August 12th, the 15th Saturday of the semester, and the Covert Abnormal Behavior Correction Center finally got what it deserved. Because this treatment center was a mobile log cabin, coupled with Yang Huai's outstanding anti-detection ability, the police hadn't been able to investigate it very well. Although there had been a lot of reports from the outside world, they hadn't been able to find any good leads. In fact, Yang Huai running into Wang Ling this time was retribution, because he had accepted Dopigua's Uncle Guofan's order to move the mobile log cabin to Songhai City. Audua and Immortal Toya had rushed over after receiving Wang Ling's call, accompanied by more than 30 ambulances and a bus of fully armed cultivator guards. Although Yang Huai was already under control, none of the brawny men he had hired in the treatment center could escape. These brawny men also had criminal records, many of them were mercenaries at the bottom of the dark network who did business for money. After Yang Huai was punished by Heavenly Dao, most of them felt that the situation was hopeless and crouched down with their hands over their heads in surrender, but there were still some who put up a stubborn resistance and tried to escape. Thus, the cultivator guards had been dispatched urgently to control this group of people. Hello, Director Joie. Senior Immortal Toya. I'm reporting the situation to you. Captain Chui, a shrewd and capable-looking man with a sexy mustache at his temples, reported the situation. Our guards have already placed the entire park under surveillance. The criminals in the log cabin as well as those who escaped are under control. The ambulances have already taken the victims from the log cabin to the major hospitals in Songhai City. There are 113 victims, 87 of whom are teenagers and 26 of whom are middle-aged and elderly. This bastard. Initial estimates are 68 seriously injured, 33 lightly injured, and the rest have been sent to intensive care. This damn bastard. Immortal Toya, bastard. He's worse than a bastard. Captain Chui and Brother Tu, control your emotions. Hearing this, Audua sighed deeply. Damn. This damn bastard. Captain Chui, Audua, cough, sorry, I forgot myself. Captain Chui, please continue. Captain Chui's voice was low. Currently, we still need to conduct further professional assessments on the specific injuries and disabilities of the victims before it can be legally enforced. Senior Immortal Toya, I'll have to trouble you with this. Immortal Toya nodded. Don't worry, Captain Chui, I've already asked my 2 disciples to come over and help. Although they're young, they've already obtained all the medical certificates, so their appraisals are equally effective. Captain Chui was stunned. He thought of the 2 young boys and girls who were carrying medical kits and looked very professional. They were even younger than his daughter. Sure enough, you can't judge a book by its cover. Senior Immortal Toya's 2 disciples are really amazing. Captain Chui was extremely envious. Studying medicine these days seemed easy and profitable. And the key was that it was really cool. He wanted his daughter to learn this as well. Captain Chui, you flatter me. My 2 disciples are still a long way off. Immortal Toya smiled modestly. By the way, Director Joie. Speaking up to this point, Captain Chui suddenly asked, how did you discover Yang Huai's mobile cabin? Audua, how could he have discovered this? He had just received a call and came over to take the blame. Audra could only make up a random excuse. At the time of the incident, I happened to be passing by and noticed that there was illegal construction here, so I had a bad feeling, as expected of Director Joie. We've caught another big shot. Captain Chui laughed heartily. But thanks to Director Joie, this major case was finally solved in our Songhai city. Although the victims came from all over the world, at the very least, it proves that our Songhai city's crackdown on crime is still quite outstanding. Audra, be that as it may, Captain Chui, you can't be arrogant and complacent because of this. It should be a disgrace to all of us to let this kind of person get away with it for so long. Director Joie is right. Yang Huai still got his punishment in the end. Speaking up to this point, Captain Chui said solemnly, I've been thinking, if parallel universes and other world lines really exist in our world, will there still be people as vicious as Yang Huai? Will Yang Huai still get his punishment in the end? Everyone was silent at this point. After a moment, Audra raised his head and said resolutely, justice will come one day. Immortal Toya nodded. How will this Yang Huai end up? Audra, Yang Huai has already been sent to Songhai First Prison, and Warden Liang is preparing to interrogate him. Apart from Yang Huai, all the family members who had contacted Yang Huai and sent the victims to him would also be punished. However, this punishment will ultimately be decided by the victims themselves. Unless they receive a letter of understanding from the victims, none of these people will be able to escape. Speaking up to this point, Audra paused, then said to Captain Chui, now that this case has fallen into our Songhai city's hands, we may need Captain Chui to go to other provinces to catch people later. I'm afraid it won't be easy to handle a cross-city case. Captain Chui was a little worried. Audra smiled slightly, he had already thought of this. He had previously been the director of the General Administration of 100 schools, but now he had another identity, leader of the Huaxiao Alliance inspection team of the General Administration of Strategic Deception. Thus, after receiving Shifu Wang Ling's call, Audra directly contacted grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and submitted an application to Huaxiao Alliance in the name of the Office of Strategic Deception. But now, that document issued by Huaxiao Alliance for cross-provincial law enforcement was already in Audra's hands. Apart from the stamp, there were only 16 words on it, handle the case according to the law. Fair and just. Increase the intensity. No leniency. Elsewhere, Yang Huai, who had already been sent to Songhai First Prison for interrogation, wasn't going well. It wasn't that he didn't want to talk about it, but, as soon as Audra entered the interrogation room, he saw Warden Liang's dark expression, and the prison guards in the interrogation room also had helpless expressions on their faces. Audra, what's going on? Warden Liang pointed to the monitoring earphones on the table. Audra, listen to it yourself. Puzzled, Audra put on the earphones, and then heard Yang Huai's dumbbell cackle. Ha 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 ha. Oh ha 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 ha, he 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 he, yo he he he. This was the after effect of Strength Heavenly Dao scratching the soles of his feet. It was very obvious that Strength Heavenly Dao had used too much force, and Yang Huai couldn't stop for a moment. Audra dropped his forehead into his hand. Send him to the mahjong room to help him. Chapter 844. Yang Huai had never thought that the day of his downfall would come so soon. He was laughing maniacally on the surface, but his heart was filled with indignation. He couldn't imagine what kind of person he had offended. His mind was now filled with the sound of Heavenly Dao, which was the mental pressure spiritual Heavenly Dao gave him. Endless electric currents rose and fell in his mind like roaring waves, making Yang Huai feel like he was better off dead than alive. He wanted to commit suicide and even bit off his own tongue. But strangely, as soon as his tongue was bitten off, it actually glued itself back together. The power of life and death Heavenly Dao made it impossible for Yang Huai to rely on suicide to escape. But Yang Huai would experience all the pain before committing suicide twice over. His tongue was the only muscle tissue on Yang Huai's body that hadn't been touched, because in the end, Yang Huai still had to rely on his mouth to confess and repent, while the rest of his muscles would wither bit by bit as strength Heavenly Tao punished him. Furthermore, Heavenly Tao's punishment would only end before Yang Huai truly realized his mistake. Yang Huai looked very miserable, but what was even worse was that he had been sent to Songhai First Prison's mahjong room. Before a prison guard sent Yang Huai to the special prison cell, the mahjong squad was playing a new game. The old devil, evil sword god and the master of Immortal Mansion Qing Yu's game today was, Kill the Author. This was a fan card game developed by a web novelist. In the beginning, each person would choose their own character card, which would have different blood values. In the first round, each person would draw 5 cards, and each round they would draw 3 cards. Character card chosen by the old devil, Jiangnan character HP, 8, character skill 1, chain blades during the playing phase. If Jiangnan plays 3 blade cards, it will be considered as using the Dragon Blade Knight Squad skill card. All characters must reveal their hand and discard 2 blade cards. If the number of blade cards discarded is not enough, 1 HP will be deducted. It can only be used once per round. Character skill 2, calm and composed. If Jiangnan gives up on playing a card during the playing phase, it will be considered as using a calm and composed delay skill card. All the blade cards in the field will be ineffective against Jiangnan, and the discarding phase will be skipped. In addition, when Jiangnan draws cards in the next round, he can reveal the blade card in his hand to draw cards of the same amount. It can only be used once per round. Master of Immortal Mansion Qing Yu has chosen a character card, Heavenly Silkworm Potato character HP, 7, character skill 1, King of Procrastination. During the play phase, the Silkworm Potato can deduct 1 HP and cast King of Procrastination on any character. In the next 2 rounds, the target can only play 1 card each. This skill can only be used once per turn, and is not affected by other cards. Character skill 2, limited skill, Fire Lotus Silkworm Potato can draw 2 cards from the bottom of the discard pile and the top of the discard pile at any stage. If the cards are of different colors, limited skill, Fire Lotus will be activated. All characters in the field will discard their cards and lose 2 HP. Note, limited skill can only be used once. The character card chosen by Evil Sword God, Where is Today, character HP, 6, character skill 1, a big stick. During the playing phase, Jin Hisai can choose a male character to engage in a philosophical exchange with him. If he wins, it will be considered as using the a big stick skill. The loser will return all his cards to Jin Hisai. Limited to 1 use per round. Character skill 2, blindfold. During the playing phase, Jin Hisai can discard 2 function cards to use the skill, Let the Sky Not Cover My Eyes No More. After the skill is activated, all characters will be judged. If it's a red card, their actions will be restricted for 1 round. If it's a black card, 1 function card will be discarded. If there aren't enough function cards, 1 HP will be deducted. Limited to 1 use per round. The old devil played Evil Sword God. Razor Blade. Card name, Razor Blade. Card type, regular card. Card function, summon a Razor Blade to deduct 1 HP from the other party, which can be offset by the Razor Blade. Evil Sword God without eyeshadow, procrastination. Card name, delay update. Card type, function card. Card function, can defend against 2 Razor Blade cards. If the other party plays 2 or more Razor Blade cards, 2 HP will be deducted. Qing Yu, procrastination. Card name, not procrastination. Card type, function card. Card function, nullifies the effects of all function cards. Evil Sword God without eyeshadow, -1 HP. Evil Sword God, white. Silver Alliance. Card name, Silver Alliance. Card type, function card. card function, can immediately draw 3 cards from the top of the pile. The Old Devil, Golden Alliance. Card name, Gold Alliance, card type, function card, card function, can immediately draw 6 cards from the top of the pile. If someone plays Silver Alliance in the same round, you can take their cards as your own. The Old Devil, Give Me Back My Lee. Card name, Give Me Back My Lee, card type, function card, card function, can draw 2 cards from the card in your right hand and take them as your own. If you don't have enough cards, an equal amount of HP will be deducted. Evil Sword God looked like he was about to cry. Ah, you, how can you bully me like this? I'm done. At that moment, 2 prison guards from Songhai First Prison were restraining Yang Huai, who was laughing maniacally, into a cell. The Old Devil, HM. Why is there a newcomer here? Little brother, is this person good enough? The prison guard little brother smiled. He's still a far cry from you, but directors was specially arranged for him to relieve your boredom. This person has a bit of a side effect now, and he can't stop laughing. Director Zhuo wants you to think of something. Think of something. The Old Devil was blank. They weren't teacher material, what else could they do? This was very obvious, they were going to make a move. But isn't this a little bad? Qing Yu frowned. He sensed Yang Huai's realm, which was actually very weak, and wasn't as durable as Evil Sword God without eyeshadow. Don't worry, this Mr. Yang Huai can't be killed. He seems to have been cursed to ensure that he won't die. The prison guard little brother laughed. Originally, only the leaders and some prison guards in the prison were aware of this matter, and weren't allowed to leak it. However, in order to ensure that Yang Huai's side effect could be cured, Oddshua had specially informed the prison guards who were escorting him before he was sent to the mahjong room, saying that it didn't matter if the people in the mahjong room found out. Oh. The Old Devil was suddenly enlightened. Can't be killed, this was good. Their bones were numb from squatting in there every day, and they were afraid of hitting Evil Sword God too hard every day. Now, someone who couldn't be killed. It looked like Evil Sword God could take a few days off. Before leaving, the prison guard gave the Old Devil a bottle of medicine. What's this? Eyeshadow powder. Remember to apply it on Evil Sword God when you hit him. Chapter 845. It was August 13th on Sunday in the 15th week of the semester. It was the 3rd day of number 60 High's first semester final exams. It was also the last day of the first semester of Wang Ling's high school life. Everyone came to school early that morning, and as Wang Ling had expected, the topic of their discussion revolved around Yang Huai. This notorious therapist had finally received the punishment he deserved. One of my uncles said that this Yang Huai is really miserable. Dopey Guetsked. I heard that there are no more empty cells in prison, so he was temporarily locked up in the special prison. Guess who are the people in there? There's the Old Devil. The master of Immortal Mansion. And Evil Sword God, who was caught earlier. When Dopey Guo said this, the people around him couldn't help shuddering. They could almost imagine Yang Huai's miserable state. Songhai First Prison Special Prison wasn't a place that ordinary people could enter. Thanks to their senior Ojua's efforts, it could now be said that every cell in the special prison was filled with villains. In terms of viciousness, Yang Huai might be worthy of the special prison's treatment, but in terms of realm and strength, any one of the people in the special prison could beat the crap out of Yang Huai. Hirogwa still vividly remembered that Yang Huai had given a frightening smile in front of the camera when the famous presenter Chai Dong had interviewed him on a medical clinic. Now, it was likely that he would never be able to smile like that again. On Chrysanthemum Island, Immortal Toya had already taken over. Until now, 4 patients in intensive care who had yet to recover from life-threatening situations had been transferred to Chrysanthemum Island for further treatment. Yang Huai had been too ruthless with these 4 people, and their cranial nerves had been severely damaged. In other words, even if their vital signs returned to normal, there was a high chance that they would be in a vegetative state for the rest of their lives, and would never wake up. But it just so happened that Immortal Toya had recently gained a lot of experience in treating the nerves. In order to treat Miss Lu Qingyi's deep coma, Immortal Toya had even used his family's ancestral magic treasure, the 9 Cycles Exquisite Pagoda. This was a quasi-world-defying magic treasure as well as a very powerful sealing magic artifact. However, it had been damaged in a major battle, and had yet to be repaired. Now, it was used as a mobile depository of Buddhist texts, because the Exquisite Pagoda also contained the Toya clan's lifelong research on medicine. Just as he was thinking about the prescription, Jin Shi and Yin Shi walked over. Jin Shi bowed and said, "Master, the patients have been settled, so fast." Immortal Toya was blank. He remembered that 2 of the 4 patients were heavy hitters, because they stayed at home for long periods of time and were unwilling to go out. Their families found Yang Huai and sent them to the treatment center. The scariest thing was that all 4 of them were uploaders from Bilibili, the first up, Lacy Boobs. He was a huge uploader, and had extremely popular fans before he was caught and sent to the treatment center, but he suddenly disappeared from the face of the earth a few months ago. If Yang Huai's treatment center hadn't been exposed, perhaps his fans would never have known that their beloved uploader had actually been caught and sent to such a terrifying treatment center. At the same time, due to long-term use of electricity, Laser Bomb's electrolyte imbalance had led to severe obesity. She weighed 260 kilograms when she was sent to the treatment center, but after Yang Huai's electricity, her electrolyte imbalance worsened, and she now weighed 380 kilograms, the second up, Lord Milk Bottle. This was an uploader who had been caught and sent to Yang Huai's treatment center through crowdfunding by his fans because he often competed in toxic milk competitions. Because he needed to consume milk powder to maintain his nutrition, after being caught and sent to the treatment center, Lord Milk Bottle became malnourished after being weaned on milk for a long time. He had lost weight from 560 kilograms at the start to 60 kilograms, hence, Jin Shi and Yin Shi had been especially careful when carrying Lord Milk Bottle just now, for fear that this uploader would break if they weren't careful. After all, milk bottles were fragile. The third up, Pai Pai Xian. This was also a uploader who had been sent to Bilibili through crowdfunding by his fans. This Pai Pai Xian had originally worked as an author, but because he didn't do his job properly, he aroused public anger and magically changed his songs every day. Thus, anti-fans had crowdfunded him to send him to Yang Huai's treatment center. But completely different from the previous 2, this 780-kilogram uploader actually became more and more handsome and unreal under Yang Huai's electric shocks. After he was released from the treatment center, some anti-fans who were jealous of his talent beat him up and sent him to the ICU. So, of the 4 up masters who had been sent here, only Pai Pishuan had been sent to the ICU not because of Yang Huai, but because of his anti-fans, the 4th up, kidney overdraft bacteria. This was a uploader who had been sent to the treatment center at the expense of his neighbors. As a professional horror game live streamer and the leader of the 4 scaredy cats on Bilibili, Lord Kidney Overdraft Bacteria often screamed unconsciously during his live stream of horror games, which seriously affected his neighbors' sleep. Thus, Kidney Overdraft Bacteria, who had been staying at home for a long time, was sent to Yang Huai's treatment center. In the end, even Yang Huai himself couldn't stand his screams, and used electric shocks to numb this uploader's vocal system. Now, after losing his voice, Kidney Overdraft Bacteria couldn't recover from his disappointment for a very long time, and fell into a coma. The ultrasonic waves that he couldn't emit actually inadvertently stimulated the adrenal hormones in his body, causing him to lose his original standard figure. Current weight, 429 kilograms. Miss Lu was the one who helped carry the 3 most serious patients. She carried one in each hand and one on her head. She's amazing. Yin Shi said. Immortal Toya was alarmed. How could you let Miss Lu do it? He started to worry about the safety of the 4 patients, such a rough way of carrying them, this wasn't a delivery. Miss Lu, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Jean Shi and Yin Shi have been very busy these last 2 days. I've been staying here for so long, so I should help you with some simple manual labor. Brother Tu, you don't need to be polite, just order me around. Immortal Toya broke out in a sweat. How would he dare order someone from the domain of the gods around? Ah, that's right, Brother Tu. I've already discussed with Wang Jin about number 60 high school, and we've decided not to fight at number 60 high school anymore. We're all adults, so we should be more civilized, Lu Qingyi said. Immortal Toya's eyes lit up and he nodded. That's a good thing. In the end, Miss Lu is Miss Lu, so reasonable. Yeah. This young lady thinks so too. Lu Qingyi chuckled. So after discussing it with Wang Jin, we've decided to have a civil battle. A civil battle? Yes. A civil battle. What, a civil battle? Wang Jin and I have already decided to be transfer students to number 60 high school and compete on our grades. Chapter 846. Lu Qingyi and Wang Jin hadn't planned to transfer to number 60 high school on a whim. They had been planning this for a long time, and had long since come to the same conclusion. At the same time, this was also the first time that Lu Qingyi and Wang Jin had unexpectedly reached a consensus on a general matter. As people from the domain of the gods, they had a lot to consider. What kind of place was the domain of the gods? That was the highest heaven for cultivators, the place where the strongest cultivators gathered after they ascended. But now that an uncertain factor like Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch had appeared outside the domain of the gods, as people born in the domain of the gods, the two of them naturally thought of staying in the mortal world and observing in secret. They wanted to see what on earth was going on. Logically speaking, there were restrictions on ascension in the world below. When one's strength surpassed the venerated immortal realm, they would automatically sense the location of Ninefold Star's domain of the gods, and open the gate of heavenly enlightenment to reach Ninefold Star. But this Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch was very strange. He was like a person who controlled all the rules, and was completely unrestrained, which was astonishing. Wang Jin believed that he definitely wasn't Wang Ling's match on his own, but now, Lu Qingyi had come. If the two of them worked together, on paper, they might be able to tie with Wang Ling. Of course, all this was unknown, and they would only know after they transferred to number 60 high school and investigated it. They could still fight again. But this was a matter of life and death for Ninefold Star, and absolutely couldn't be ignored. Such an almighty was now lurking in a school in the world below, and even had a family of his own. Who on earth was this person? Could it be that his family was also forged by the Almighty himself? Could this person be plotting something? And why was he asking about the domain of the gods, and what did he plan to do with the domain of the gods after that? The more Wang Jin and Lu Qingyi thought about it over the last few days, the more they thought about it. They felt that it was time for them to step forward bravely, investigate everything, and save the world. It had to be said that Wang Jin and Lu Qingyi were really very courageous. It was a pity that Immortal Toya didn't know the mind-reading ability, otherwise he would definitely have stopped this stupid move. From this, it could be seen that humans weren't just repeaters, but also computers. Monday, August 14th. It was the first day of the summer break, and also the day when number 60 High's transfer channel opened. Because the transfer process was rather complicated, the transfer channel for foundation establishment high schools would only open after the final exams. The number of people applying to transfer to number 60 high school this year could be said to be unprecedented. One reason was Oj's influence. After arresting several big shots in a row in the last 2 months, his reputation in Songhai City had become more and more resounding, which directly affected number 60 High's status in the city. It was estimated that number 60 High would be upgraded to a key city high school by next year. Furthermore, During this summer break, Number 60 High's campus construction funds would also be in place, and the school would change completely inside and out. Therefore, for many parents, this was a rare opportunity. Number 60 High was now on the verge of a super evolution, but the recruitment requirements for transfer students were still carried out according to the standards of ordinary high schools, which made a lot of parents itch. Everyone knew that Number 60 High's biggest investor was Hwagwoo Water Curtain Group. Not only was this the largest elixir consortium, even the eldest daughter of a wealthy family was studying at Number 60 High School. Coupled with Audiobook, who had been in the limelight more and more recently, Number 60 High School would probably be upgraded from a key city high school to a gold medal high school in another 2 years. The students were already on vacation, but Number 60 High's Director of Education's office was extremely busy. Director Sher had asked Old Antique and Teacher Pan to stay behind to answer the phone. Number 60 High's golden core rate hadn't been high. If it was upgraded to a key city high school next year, the golden core rate would become an important ranking indicator for key high schools. Thus, this recruitment was especially important. There were a limited number of transfer students, and there were a lot of parents who had signed up, so all of them had to be admitted based on merit. You don't say, there are a lot of quality students. Old Antique flipped through the student handbook and saw several familiar names. For example, Number 59 High School's delinquent senior, Tang Jingza, had actually applied to transfer. I remember this student. He's a talented one, but he didn't have a very good reputation at Number 59 High School. Teacher Pan pushed up her gold-rimmed glasses and said, but I think he can join our grade 1, class 3. Old Antique, I thought Teacher Pan would refuse. I just checked, and Tang Jing's attitude changed significantly in the second half of the semester. After our class went to that Spirit Sword exchange meet, someone said that he seemed to have changed into a different person. The people who went to that exchange meet were all students from our class. Teacher Pan smiled. It must be the excellent ethos of our students that corrected this bad habit. This Tang Jingze can indeed be considered. Director Sher also nodded as she flipped through the other student handbooks. I think we should now consider the problem of student Li Mingyao and student Zhou Yujing. Old Antique was blank. Somehow, he felt that these two names were a little familiar. After recalling them, he was startled. Don't tell me these two kids are, that's right. Director Sher said with a serious expression, these two are the third young masters of Songhai's 4 big families. The Li family's skills shop business and the Zhou family's artifact refining business are extremely famous in the circle. Old Antique was a little puzzled. These two participated in the summer camp before, but why do they suddenly want to transfer schools? I'm afraid they're here for someone. Their joining will bring great prestige to our Number 60 high school. But they also said that they have to join the elite class, and there aren't any requirements for their class placement. Don't tell me they're here for Lotus Sun. Teacher Pan snorted. I forbid my students from engaging in puppy love. Other people might be transferring schools for Lotus Sun, but these two definitely aren't, Director Sher said. I remember that when student Lotus Sun joined Number 60 high school before, the other 3 big families in Songhai City were vaguely mocking her. Young Master Li and young Master Zhou also did so in the school's Tiaba forum. Although these 2 posts were deleted, powerful netizens still dug them out after news of the transfer spread. So this time, Li and Zhou have other motives for choosing to transfer schools. Could they be here for Audiobook? Old Antique broke out in a sweat. This Xinjiang law was a little sudden. Of the 4 big families in Songhai City, 3 of them were students at Number 60 high school. If this matter came to light, it would have a severe impact on Number 60 high school's campus. It's possible. Teacher Pan immediately nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. These are the most outstanding students I've ever taught. Old Antique, no matter who they are, we have to be careful when dealing with these 2 people. After all, their identities are a little special. At that moment, Director Sher said, apart from that, I just looked at the list and think that the following students are all pretty good. Oh. Which students? Chapter 847. August 15th, Tuesday. The second day of the summer vacation. Out of the 3 years of high school, which one was the most relaxing? In comparison, the first year was naturally the most relaxing. There was no pressure of choosing classes in the second year of high school, and there was no tension of rushing for the college entrance examination in the third year of high school. The first year was a salted fish year, and the second and third years weren't so good. But compared with other people, Wang Ling's summer vacation was a lot more relaxed and carefree. The most common thing he encountered during the summer vacation was tutoring. This was especially true for the children of the elite class. If they wanted to be a top student in front of others, they had to work hard behind the scenes. Before the start of the summer break, Super Chin, Dopey Gua and Little Peanut had already been clearly arranged by their parents, but in the first week of the summer break, Teacher Pan sent a message to all the parents of the elite classes in the parents group, asking them not to arrange any extracurricular tutoring for them in the first week of the summer break. Conspiracy. This is definitely a conspiracy. In a chat group called Ocean of Salted Fish, Super Chin sent a screenshot of Teacher Pan's message in the parents group, which his mother had sent to him after taking a screenshot. This is definitely a fake old Pan. Little Peanut replied swiftly. After a semester of learning Pan Shingsong's temper, everyone had a general understanding of old Pan's temperament. Old Pan was a person who was unmoved by force or persuasion, and she was especially strict with her studies. Therefore, when facing old Pan, there was only one thing he could do, and that was to reach a basic negotiation agreement with her. As long as he didn't neglect his studies, everything else could be discussed. However, such a strict homeroom teacher was now asking parents not to arrange lessons for their children during the first semester of summer vacation. They wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. When the bootlickers are done licking the noodles, the pigeons are done pecking the rice, and the fire breaks the lock, only then will old Pan assign 10 fewer sets of exam papers. Super Chin said, "Do you think there's a problem here?" "I think I know the reason." At that moment, Dopey Gua said, "Everyone, do you know that there will be an assessment for transfer students at number 60 high this summer? I heard that the number of transfer students this year is more than 30 times that of previous years." Super Chin and Little Peanut were startled. More than 30 times. Dopey Gua nodded. "That's right. Some say they're here for Senior Audjua, while others say they're here for Lotus Sunday." Super Chin, "Of course. This is our school's prestige. It's not like they're after you or Wang Ling, right?" Wang Ling. Not long after the discussion in the chat group, a new message suddenly came from Grade 1, Class 3's chat group. Super Chin, "Damn. All the members of Old Pan are here." When Super Chin said this, Wang Ling had already seen several strange messages pop up in the class group chat. When he opened the class group chat, the first thing he saw was Old Pan's extremely unusual greeting, "Dear students, Super Chin, Old Pan, don't scare people. Dopey Gua, Old Pan. If you want to assign papers, just assign papers. Don't do this, I'm scared. Little Peanut, Old Pan, I just finished my papers at home yesterday. If you assign more, my liver won't be able to take it. I'm used to finishing all my summer homework before I rest." When Little Peanut said this, Wang Ling looked at the monster pen and the goblin eraser who were working at the desk. There was a thick pile of Dao Talisman's exam papers on his desk. Old Pan had only assigned these papers, but when they were piled up on the desk, they could bury a person inside. "Monster Pen, don't worry, Master, we've already completed 78% of your summer homework." Goblin Eraser, it's estimated to be finished in 2 hours. Seeing that some of the children had already finished their homework, Teacher Pan was very gratified. It could only be said that as number 60 High's gold medal teacher and the legendary teaching pioneer, Teacher Pan was in the end Teacher Pan. She smiled slightly and quickly replied, "Look at student Little Peanut. Why is it that even though we're all my students, he finishes his homework in one night? This shows that you're not as hardworking as he is. And ask yourselves, how much homework do I assign? My papers can only fill up one storage bag. One storage bag. 20 g. It's lighter than an egg. Don't talk nonsense in the class group chat. I've always been implementing the policy of reducing the burden according to the higher-ups' instructions. Everyone. Teacher Pan, dear students, I'm already good enough to you. The last batch of seniors had a brocade bag of 100 grams every summer vacation. Ah, that's right, let me remind all of you not to try to copy other people's homework. There's an automatic memory array in my homework, and every time someone finishes their homework, the answers will be automatically recorded. If anyone tries to copy homework, I'll be able to detect it backstage. I haven't even decided on the list for home visits this summer, so I'll look for whoever copies homework. Everyone, Teacher Pan cleared her throat and then continued to speak in the group. Now, let's get down to business. What I'm going to say next is also part of your summer homework, but the content is practical. Practical. Students, you've already studied for a full semester at number 60 high school. There are still 5 semesters left before you graduate, which is 4,000 chapters. I believe all of you have already heard that in the second semester, some transfer students will be coming to our number 60 high school for a brand new course. This time, we're adopting a merit-based admission system. Regardless of family background, we'll only select students with outstanding exam results. In addition to exam results, the interview is also an important assessment criterion. Hearing this, the 16-person class group was deathly silent. Wang Ling almost instinctively had a bad feeling. You know, I have to be busy grading your final exam papers. After I'm done, if someone doesn't do well, I'll have to contact their parents for home visits and so on. It's very busy, so for the interview this time, all of you will be acting as examiners. Of course, as your amiable teacher in charge, I'll personally arrange for the venue for you. Are you touched? The interview this time will be a 2v2 battle. At the same time, during the interview, all of you will need to demonstrate the killer moves that you've developed in the previous summer camp. Hearing this, some people already understood. On the surface, this was an interview to test the strength of new transfer students, but in fact, it was for them. The interview will begin the day after tomorrow. Students of the elite class, please arrive at school at 8:00 sharp tomorrow for the drawing of lots. Latecomers will have 5 points deducted from their final exam papers. Latecomers will have 61 points deducted. Saying this, Teacher Pan felt that she was being a little too harsh, so she sent a red packet in the group. Here's a red packet to comfort all of you. Actually, your teacher still feels sorry for you. Wang Ling opened the red packet. A red packet of 1 yuan. Chapter 848. Wednesday, August 16th. It was the 3rd day of the summer break. Number 60 High had already entered summer break mode today, except for the students from the elite class. After careful consideration, Headmaster Chen and Director Shi decided that only the students from number 60 High's elite class would come forward for the 2v2 interview test this time. In fact, this was also a rare opportunity for exchange. Most of the transfer students this time were from famous schools, such as Li Mingyao and Zhou Yujing, the 3rd young masters of the 4 big families from Remnant Elder Senior High School. Coming from famous schools and with solid family backgrounds, there was absolutely no need to doubt Li Mingyao and Zhou Yujing's strength among their peers. When all was said and done, on the surface this was an interview test for new transfer students, but it was also a test for number 60 High's elite class students. So it wasn't without reason that Wang Ling had wanted to go to the regular class back then. The elite class was full of things to do. On the day of the lot drawing test, Super Chin was actually a little moody. Old Pan had repeatedly ordered all the elite class students to participate in the test, but Super Chin didn't dare say anything about it. Thus, he simply changed the name of their WeChat group from Salted Fishes Ocean to Salted Fishes Elite Class Never Breaks to show his dissatisfaction. Dopigua's comment on this was only one word: coward. They arrived in class early in the morning. Although Old Pan had set the time for 8:00, it had only been a few days since the summer break, and most of the people in class hadn't adjusted their biological clocks yet. For example, Super Chin and Dopigua had woken up at 6 in the morning. They didn't know what to do after waking up, but after browsing through a few apps, they realized that the novel author they were following had gone out to collect material, the Upmaster video they were following had stood up, and the comic book author they were following had broken his arm this week. Bored to death, they could only wash up and rush to school. So when Wang Ling arrived, there were already a lot of people in class. Dopigua and Super Chin were bickering over the matter of changing the group name cards. Dopigua: Super. What are you unhappy about? Just do it. Super Chin: do it. Why don't you do it? The only people in class who can make me do it are you and Wang Ling. Wang Ling. Wang Ling could see that everyone wasn't in a good mood. Although this interview seemed to be a test for transfer students, the pressure it gave off was no less than the pressure before the final exam. In fact, it was even greater than the pressure before the final exam. They represented the school. What if he gave the school a slap in the face during the battle? Although according to the rules of previous years, no matter which class a transfer student was assigned to, it wouldn't affect the existing class allocation, the people in the class were still very nervous at this time. At times like this, what the class lacked was a shot in the arm. This was also the reason why he had come this time. He couldn't allow anyone else to join Grade 1, Class 3. The reason was simple. Otherwise, he would be walking further and further down the road of suppressing his score. So from now on, no matter what kind of opponent the students in class faced, Wang Ling had already decided that he would observe them in secret and then help them, because everyone had arrived relatively early and the final exam had just ended. It should be the most idle time for Grade 1 students. While they waited nervously for the final exam results, the other nature of the students was to watch the drama unfold. Combined with everyone's resentment this morning, a lot of people started to go to the school's Chiba to search for information on transfer students who wanted to transfer to number 60 high school. In the end, it would have been better if they hadn't searched, but once they did, something big happened. A student from Daosong Foreign Language Cultivation High shared a photo on his school's Chiba, which was a transfer permit from number 60 high school. He. I heard that number 60 high school has invited students from their own school for the battle interview this time. What do you think their chances of winning are? What class are you in, OP? You want to transfer? Is this dog's hit trash high school worthy of me transferring? My Dao song is number 1 in the world. The number of clicks on this post wasn't high to begin with, but people searched for information on number 60 high school's transfer with keywords. Now that number 60 high school students had dug it out, it instantly blew up on Chiba. Daosong Foreign Language Cultivation High School. F***K. Too arrogant. A lot of students from number 60 high school's regular classes noticed this, and they took a screenshot of the original post and then posted a link to it on number 60 high school's Chiba. A lot of number 60 high school students were enraged early in the morning because of this arrogant comment, including some students from remedial classes and regular classes, who were naturally indignant when they saw their school being insulted online. Furthermore, the other party didn't have any sincerity in transferring at all, and was purely stirring up trouble. Daosong Foreign Language Cultivation High School. Which school is that? Super Chin just flipped through the post, then also slapped the table and stood up. Damn it. I'm going to fight him to the death. It's a cultivation high school built with the investment of a luxury foreign company, abbreviated in English, DG. It also has its own brand with the same name in Licio Nation. Its main purpose is to create high-end luxury products for cultivation use. But this school isn't in our Peiyuan district, but Liyuan district. And it's ranked first in the district. Dopey Gwen narrowed his eyes. I just sent a screenshot to an uncle of mine who works in education, and he told me about it. The students of this foreign company cultivation high school are all wearing this company's brand, and their uniforms and spirit swords are all custom-made. The requirements for admission are also very simple, you just have to spend money. You just need to buy a luxury product and you'll be admitted. Furthermore, the school guarantees that even if the students aren't talented, they'll at least be able to reach the peak late foundation establishment stage before they graduate. When Dopey Gua said this, everyone already understood. To put it bluntly, this was a school for the rich. Furthermore, for the school to be able to make such a guarantee, it was very clear that they had their own reasons for doing so. In modern cultivation, as long as you had the money, you could throw money at the foundation establishment and golden core realms. This was the real difference between a player with paywalls and a poor player, so what if you're rich? Arrogant. Classmate Lotus Sun's family background is also very good. It's obvious who's better. Little Peanut was also a little angry. He was usually a very good-tempered person. Lotus Sun was also very angry. It's very obvious that this person is a second-generation rich kid. He's usually spoiled, and his family has money, so he's relying on throwing money to improve his strength. At that moment, Dopey Gua suddenly said, "This person is posting a comment again." He shared the link in the class group chat. Everyone clicked on the link and saw that the student had actually replied to several posts in the original post. Ha 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 ha. Did this bunch of trash from number 60 high school get poked in their sore spot? So, I'm famous now. I didn't want to transfer schools at all. But this is a good opportunity to teach the number 60 high school students a lesson. I'll teach you how to behave. Oh, that's right, I'll use my strength to show everyone that the kind of country has the kind of trash school. Wash your neck. F***K. This person. I can't stand it anymore. I want to hit him. Seeing this, almost everyone in grade 1, class 3 stood up. Only Wang Ling silently took a screenshot of this student's comments and sent it directly to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. He typed only 2 words below the picture. Deal with him. HM. Chapter 849. Of course, the main reason for this was Wang Ling's text message. And this time, Wang Ling's text wasn't an ellipsis. Just this point alone was enough to tell how serious the problem was. After all, this concerned the reputations of 2 schools, and a student's mistake generally couldn't be raised to the school level. Thus, after receiving the news, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal immediately had Audjua check the situation first. To avoid arousing suspicion, Audjua still had Zhong Lang make the call. In the end, DG High School's attitude was unusually arrogant. After 2 hours of warning, Zhong Lang called again, and the director of education who answered the call replied unhurriedly in Mandarin with a strong foreign accent, "We're verifying it. Please don't be anxious, give us some time." And so, 2 hours later, the other party's reply was, "We're verifying it. Please don't be anxious, give us some time." F***K. Audjua had actually been next to Zhong Lang when he had asked on the phone, and this attitude infuriated him. He immediately slapped the table and stood up. 1 minute, I want all the information on this school. A major disadvantage of schools established by foreign companies was that they didn't have to go through the jurisdiction of the local general administration of 100 schools, and all their actions were reported to the alliance of 10,000 schools. Thus, it wasn't strange for DG High School to have such an arrogant attitude toward the general administration of 100 schools after learning of this incident. In other cities, schools established by foreign companies more or less had this problem, and were unwilling to directly follow the arrangements of the local general administration of 100 schools. But what DG High School hadn't expected was that this was in Songhai City. Furthermore, they had no idea what kind of relationship Audjo currently had with Secretary.com, the head of the Alliance of 10,000 Schools. The Alliance of 10,000 Schools database contained information on all the schools in Huaxiu Nation. Generally speaking, a report had to be filed for an investigation, which usually took at least 8 hours. But Audjo now had another identity. He was the leader of the Office of Strategic Deception's inspection team. Given the relationship between the Office of Strategic Deception and Huaxiu Alliance, as well as Audjo's current position, this information would directly shorten the review time significantly. This information was very detailed. Because it was official information from the Alliance of 10,000 Schools, it contained information on this school, as well as information that hadn't been submitted but had been secretly investigated by the Alliance of 10,000 Schools and stored in the database. This school's golden core rate isn't low. Zhong Lang looked at the data on the report. The children of rich families rely on drugs to get there. Audjo chuckled. Nowadays, the rich rely on technology, the poor rely on mutation. Our country has never advocated this kind of cultivation method of taking pills to grow. This would greatly reduce one's foundation. Do you know those waterlogged beef on the market? In order to increase its weight, a large amount of water was injected into the cow's body in a short period of time, forcing the cow to become heavier. At the same time, the quality of the beef was greatly reduced. This is the same principle. Audjo carefully combed through this thick stack of information, and as he read, he actually laughed. Brother Zhua, why are you laughing? Zhong Lang asked. My master said that he's going to set up this school. Since he was going to do it, there had to be a suitable reason. From the information in his hand, I saw that this school had a criminal record. DG is very well known abroad, but it's not in the top 10 in Songhai City. The other party has been publishing papers in foreign media to mock our country's cultivation education level and level of knowledge. Audjo said, but what's interesting is that these reports are all from abroad. They didn't find any domestic media outlets to publish them. So sociopathic. Zhong Lang was startled. This was a typical snitch. Earning money from Huaxiu students while establishing a sense of superiority abroad. However, the most distressing thing was that these kids who entered DG High School were really brainwashed by this sense of superiority and thought that they were great. Of course, this group of kids couldn't be blamed. It was purely a problem caused by the environment. DG thinks that no one can handle them, but I already have some ideas. Audjo browsed through the information again and again. When he saw the list of drug resources that DG provided to the school's kids, he realized that the biggest supplier of drug resources to DG was actually Chrysanthemum Island. It turned out that they were all on the same side. Then things would be very easy to handle next. Just 5 minutes later, Immortal Toya released a message through his official Weibo account as well as Chrysanthemum Island's official account. I and my company, Chrysanthemum Island, will terminate all drug resources cooperation with DG High School. Below the Weibo post were several photos of DG High School students insulting number 60 High School, as well as some articles in foreign languages that satirized domestic education. As soon as this Weibo post was posted, the entire industry was shaken. What was Immortal Toya's status now? He was the leader of the Office of Strategic Deception's Spirit Medicine team, and now the vice chairman of Huaxiu's Alchemists Association. He had already made his position clear in public. But what even DG High School didn't expect was, after such a reputation, it triggered a boycott from the entire world of alchemists. His lifespan was longer, his agility was extremely high, his jumping ability was extremely strong, and he had monstrous strength since he was young. Not only that, but it also possessed powerful regenerative abilities. This was a vampire cultivator, and also one of the pillars of DG High School this year. After the incident, DG High School chose to protect Li Hao largely because of this reason. Of course, another reason was that Li Hao's father, Li Jiao, was one of the directors of DG High School. Why are the teachers panicking? As long as I take down the opponent in the match, all the problems will naturally be solved. Li Hao sat on the chair, not panicking in the slightest. Although my cultivation level is only at the late stage of the foundation building realm, all of you teachers know my true battle strength. I can easily defeat a middle stage golden core cultivator. These number 60 high students aren't enough. I think I can fight 10 of them. It seems that young Master Li is very confident after reading the sample paper. Hearing Li Hao's words, the teacher in the Office of Academic Affairs nodded. I've also read the information on those students. Except for that Miss Lotus Sun from Huaguo Water Curtain Group, I don't think there's anything to be afraid of at all. So what if it's Lotus Sun? Li Hao punched the armrest of his chair. I, Li Hao, have lived for so long, but this time, I'm not human anymore. Let them spew whatever they want. As long as I win, everything will be clear. Young Master Li's words make sense. The teacher in the Office of Academic Affairs nodded repeatedly. But young Master Li, you have to understand, Li Hao, ? You're not human to begin with. In the afternoon, the lot drawing ceremony was already over. Teacher Pan came to the class to announce the results. Because it was a lot drawing for the 2v2 match this time, it was 2 transfer students versus 2 students from number 60 High's elite class. Lotus Sun and Super Chin were in the same group. Dopey Gua and Little Peanut were in the same group. Wang Ling and Fong Xing were in the same group. After Teacher Pan finished explaining the groups for number 60 High students, she then pushed up her gold-rimmed glasses. Next, I'll announce the match situation. Student Lotus Sun and Student Super Chin, your opponents are Tang Jingzi from number 59 High School and Wu Yang from Tianchi Imperial High School. Why were they in the same group as that damn Li Hao? Super Chin sighed regretfully. He had been filled with righteous indignation since this morning, and had only wanted to beat up that DG High School student who had been hooting. Hero Gua, Su Xiao, your opponents are Student Li Mingyao and Student Zhou Yujing from Disabled Elderly Senior High School. What the hell? Dopey Gua and Little Peanut were alarmed. These were 2 absolutely troublesome opponents, and neither of them was easy to deal with. Li Mingyao was famous for his skills. After classmate Wang Ling's narrow escape from the Spirit Sword Exchange meet and the Space Fisher, he had almost forgotten that classmate Wang Ling had already become number 60 High's male koi. This paragraph implies a recommendation vote for the new book, and now, he was the school's favorite. No matter what, Li Hao and his father's behavior is very shameless. Old Antique chewed on a spicy strip. So in this battle, we weren't aiming to win, but to let everyone see how shameless they are. Teacher, do you mean to have the third team lose on purpose? You can lose, but there's no need. Old Antique shook his head. Li Hao and his father are determined to kill this time. They definitely won't let Wang Ling and student Fong Xing off so easily. So our plan is for classmate Wang Ling to stall Li Hao's father while classmate Fong Xing defeats Li Hao as quickly as possible. As long as we can defeat Li Hao, it will be our victory. Speaking up to this point, Old Antique took out a pack of spicy strips from his pocket. This pack of spicy strips is also called stretch leg and ice stare strips. Student Wang Ling can eat one before the start of the match. That way, when you're beaten, your injuries will heal quickly. One pack of spicy strips will delay Li Hao's father for 3 minutes, so classmate Fang Xing must defeat Li Hao within these 3 minutes. Everyone, old antique, this plan is also known as the mascot Wang Ling sacrifice plan. Wang Ling, in the end, he was still a mascot. August 17, Thursday. The interview for number 60 high's transfer students began, and all the students in the elite class were on standby. This was an extremely serious day for everyone, because it concerned the honor and disgrace of the entire number 60 high school as well as Huaxiu's local cultivation education. Losing to Li Diao was because he had an unfair advantage. But he absolutely could not lose to Li Hao. The team battle could be lost, but Li Hao must die. Early in the morning, a lot of students from number 60 high school's regular classes and even remedial classes posted all kinds of self-made emojis in various school tieba to cheer on the elite class students. This incident also caused quite a reaction in the school circle. Number 59 high school's tieba, Reliance High School's tieba, Prime Elevation High School's tieba, God Vision High School's tieba, all responded to this incident and spontaneously cheered on number 60 high school's elite class. The most important thing was that several schools that had originally been at odds with each other and weren't on good terms had inadvertently become one because of this incident. Thus, DG High School's discrimination incident was commemorative and progressive. Thanks to DG High School, the relationship between the local cultivation academies and Huaxiu Nation had taken a big step closer. In the elite class lounge, Wang Ling and his group of friends were waiting for their numbers to be called.